I'm glad you're with us. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in the App Store. Join us there. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. College football playoff rankings out again. If you saw GMAC on the show last night, you know some of his feelings on how this played out. What did you like? What did you dislike from what you saw from the committee last night, Greg?
Well, I think that there's about to be imminent disaster here pretty soon in the SEC. If you're an SEC fan and you are looking at your team a la Georgia, let's just say they win this weekend. All right, I don't think they're a 9.5 point favorite. I think it's fair to assume that they'll handle business this weekend at home. Georgia wins, then how far do you drop Tennessee? You're about to have a logjam of teams between, say, 8 and 14 that are SEC teams. And like we all know here in the college football playoff that is now 12 teams, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting in the playoff. We could very well see a situation where Texas and Texas A&M is a playoff game. We could see a situation here in a couple weeks where Alabama is left out in favor of a 2-loss Tennessee because Tennessee has the head-to-head. We could see a scenario where Georgia's left out in favor of Alabama and Ole Miss because Ole Miss and Alabama have the head-to-head. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of things, and the head-to-head is going to be disregarded in some situations, I think, because you can't possibly account for it all, and it's going to get real challenging. I think people are going to be really ticked off in the SEC footprint because you're going to see a team like Indiana who's played nobody and probably get their doors blown off by Ohio State, but they're still going to be in the field because they're 11-1. It's going to be a problem here pretty soon.
So essentially you're saying that the SEC teams don't have enough ground to make up and the Big Ten teams don't have enough difficult matchups to knock them out. And that's going to probably mean an SEC team or two that is going to have a comparable resume, maybe an extra loss or so, is not going to be able to climb back above those teams. That's your fear currently?
That's my feel, yeah. I mean, they just dropped Georgia 9 spots.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, Miami got dropped 5, and they lost to a team whose starting quarterback threw for less than 20 yards.
Especially considering the opponent
here
that Georgia lost to and where they're ranked. That's the part that you look at and say, okay, part of this is I'm not sure that I'm on board with all of this, but
it's
okay.
almost like the committee's justifying it too. And I'm not saying like LSU should be a top 15 team, but LSU dropped 7 spots. I mean, these are significant drops.
It almost feels like, Greg, that they lost to a team that had 2 losses, so they had to get them below some of the 2-loss teams.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I think that they're preparing us for a scenario where, hey, SEC, guess what? We think you're great and deep, and while there hasn't been a team that has elevated to the top just yet, if you think you're getting 5 at-larges, you're nuts. It's almost like they're preparing us for that.
Right.
But I honestly, like, who can blame them? But I look at Georgia's schedule and I look at Indiana's schedule and I just think, man, alive. And this is not me looking at it through the lens of an SEC fan. You could be a Big 12 fan and looking at Indiana's schedule and be disgusted. Seriously. Do you realize, Cole, that between teams in strength of schedule metric, between 90 and 110, 19 teams are from the group of 5. The one that is not, Indiana. Their strength of schedule is 100th. They are playing comparable to a Sun Belt schedule. And there's no disrespect to the Sun Belt. It's actually, I've had a tremendous amount of respect for the Sun Belt. It's slightly tougher than the MAC and not quite as difficult as the American. That's the level of schedule that Indiana has played this year. Their best win is against a 5-4 Nebraska team who just fired their OC because they're flirting with the possibility of not going bowling. And Indiana is comfortably in the field right now at number 5. Now, should they lose to Ohio State next week in considerable fashion? I personally think that they should drop all the way out. But I also think that Clemson should not be in the top 25 because the 2 teams they've played that have a pulse blew them out. So I think Indiana is, with them being all the way up there at 5, man, they're in a really good spot. And they're probably going to get in favor of an Ole Miss, perhaps, just using Ole Miss as an example, or Georgia, or Alabama, or Tennessee. They're going to get in over one of those 4 teams, and every one of those 4 teams, I would choose to beat them convincingly.
There's a more nightmarish scenario that's in front of us, kind of heading the direction that you are. And speaking of Sunbelt, we got a Sunbelt head coach on today, Brian Vincent, head coach at ULM, is going to join us at 8 a.m. He obviously going to be taking on Auburn this weekend. Trent Dilfer at 7:15, as always. Pete Thamel, who had the report yesterday on Nico Iamaleava and his status for this weekend. See if that's changed at all. 9 o'clock, Pete will be with us as well to discuss that. Here is a scenario for you, Greg, that may be even more nightmarish than what you're referencing. Can you recall the college football playoff rankings? Was it week 10 was the first week that we got it? Week 11, first week that we got it. So remember where Ohio State was in the first ranking? Do you recall?
In the college football playoff committee rankings?
Correct, yes.
There were 2.
More importantly, who are they above? Georgia, Miami, Texas, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So you go back and look at what the rankings are now. Your scenario of, okay, let's dismiss Indiana right this second and go ahead and get them out. The more nightmarish scenario may be if Indiana beats Ohio State this weekend. Because that committee has already.
Not a nightmarish situation.
That committee has, I believe it would be because of how Ohio State is thought of. Because if that committee thinks of Ohio State that way, how are they going to think of Indiana when they beat them and they're undefeated? And then you think they're going to drop Ohio State 9 spots?
Because the trickle down, well, they just dropped Georgia 9 spots.
Yeah, but they also had Ohio State ahead of Georgia and ahead of Miami and ahead of Texas. Correct. And they still have them ahead of those teams. Texas, Penn State, both 1-loss teams. Ahead of Tennessee, 1-loss team. Ahead of Notre Dame, Miami, 1-loss teams. Ahead of Boise, 1-loss team. Just saying. That committee's already shown that they love Ohio State. And that could actually be the more scary situation is if Indiana wins and they move up to 2 and Ohio State only goes to what, 6 or 7?
Yeah, and then, I mean, they do have the win over number 4 Penn State, but Georgia has the win over Texas. So I think it's a little bit dependent on who finishes higher, Texas or Penn State. I think that should be pretty obvious. If I'm going to be honest, I think Ohio State and Georgia, I think it's kind of a toss-up. I don't have like a huge – I think both actually have comparable issues. But, man, I'd probably take Ohio State over Georgia right now. Would you? Like, I can't be that mad about it. Like, if we're comparing Ohio State
I'm not mad about it from that perspective.
Georgia,
I'm just looking big picture of how the committee looks at Ohio State and did not look at Georgia earlier in the year and maybe does not look at Tennessee that way. And so that's the part that I look at and say, if you want to start talking about nightmare scenarios and the potential and what could be most dangerous for SEC teams getting left out, let Indiana beat Ohio State this weekend.
Yeah. And I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility. I don't think it's likely, but I do think it's possible. I'm curious when it all shakes out. And look, I think that there's a lot of meat on the bone for a lot of SEC teams. So let's just be real. Like A&M has a lot of upward mobility. And granted, they go and win at Auburn. You and I know that's a good win. At Auburn the week before you play Texas, to you and I know that's a good win. I don't think the committee will recognize that. But I do think there's A&M is in a great spot. What if A&M beats Texas? Then you have a real jumbled mess. You got 2 lost teams across the board. And that's assuming Texas doesn't lose to Arkansas coming up this weekend. I don't think they will, but just saying it's possible, right?
Right, yeah.
Ohio State has a landmine game against Indiana. How much should Indiana drop in the event which they lost to Ohio State? To me, I think they should fall out, but that's my personal opinion. Penn State, I don't get the love affair there. I just don't understand it. I think that they're a good team. I think that they're solid. People always are like, well, what's the difference between you love Ole Miss? I'm like, look at Penn State's team and look at Ole Miss's team. Tell me who has more juice. Like, tell me who's got more guys that scare you. Penn State or Ole Miss? And it's not close. I mean, I think it's Ole Miss by a wide margin. The Big 12 will resolve itself. The ACC will resolve itself. Boise will resolve itself. But if I'm the SEC right now and I'm Greg Sankey, I'm starting to take some names. I'm just telling you, I think the SEC is not going to get enough teams in. To no fault of their own, I just don't think that there's going to be as many that get in as they probably think they should get in. And it's going to be held against the college football playoff, the 11 commissioners here starting in 2 years. Because remember, these first 2 years are a trial period. How does it work? Right. How do we like it? And I don't think the SEC right now, based on how things are lining up, I don't think they're going to like what happens on Selection Day.
All right, a couple things here quickly. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, tweet in at Mac and Cube. Trent Dilfer, 715. We'll come back to this topic as soon as we finish up with Coach Dilfer and give you more opportunities to get in there. I saw this tweet from Graham Coffey yesterday, Greg. Graham works for Dog Central. He covers Georgia.
I was going to say, yeah, I knew that name.
He said, just going to say this. And the last part of this is more his part, and that's fine for him. But I do think he's super accurate here on the front end of this collectively. He tweets, I'm just going to say this. If the CFP committee continues to rank teams by the loss column and nothing else, they're going to be the cause of their own demise. Georgia physically beat the expletive out of Texas. Sticking them 9 spots behind them is wild. The second part of that is not necessarily why I wanted to use that, but I think he's super accurate with where he's going in the beginning. Yes. Like you brought up Penn State. And, listen, one of the lazy complaints is brand recognition, or
so lazy.
Just getting credibility for that. But it's not that it's not real sometimes. It is. I think it's showing up so far with this committee a little bit. I really do. You brought it up.
The one that's benefiting most from it's Clemson. Clemson's the one that's benefiting most from brand bias, but I digress. Go ahead.
But it's fair. And then I love what he says there about ranking these teams by the loss column. And I think undefeated should be valued. I think that should mean something. I think there should be a lot of stock put in it because it's difficult to just be perfect. And and like Coach Saban's always said, teams gave us their best shot. Teams came after us in a different way. When you have a 0 in the loss column, teams want to be the one that did that. They want to be the one that proved everybody else wrong, that you couldn't do it and that they couldn't do it. So, but I love the way he stated that because there is a portion of this to me that feels like these teams are being ranked mostly by the loss column.
It's hard to push back on that, I mean,
and I'm not saying that's all wrong. It's just like he says, it shouldn't solely be that.
I just don't want it to turn into a situation where and I honestly hate this as far as conference championship games are concerned. Like, I really do. Right now, if Ohio State lost to Michigan, they beat Indiana, Ohio State would be on the outside looking in on the Big Ten championship game. Like, not all schedules are created equal nowadays. With bloated conferences, at least and I had this conversation with Mike Elko a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about the SEC and the SEC championship. He said we had some solace in knowing that if we got to the SEC championship game, we played the same teams together within the conference. Like, we played, yes, occasionally we had to go and play Georgia when someone got to go and play a 500 Kentucky. I get that. But at least in order to get to the conference title game, you had to win your division, which means you had to play the same 6 or 7 teams every year. And there was great, and everyone had to run the same gauntlet in order to get to where they wanted to go. Now, with these bloated conferences, and I love it, by the way, I love the matchups that have been created as a result of it, but here's the problem. What are we doing as far as gauging Indiana's schedule versus Georgia's schedule? They are not at all similar. And if you want to just keep it in the Big Ten, we can do that. Let's just keep it in the Big Ten. Look at the strength of schedule, or go look at the schedule that UCLA has had to play when compared to what Indiana's had to play. The Big Ten has a brutally difficult schedule for some, but not for all. And it's, to me, somewhat unfair. When the toughest team you've played in your own conference is a 5-5 Michigan team. And by the way, that's not Indiana's fault. Michigan is traditionally an excellent program. This is just one of those weird years where it just hasn't worked out that way. But when we're looking at these teams and we're trying to gauge these teams by way of strength of schedule, go look at UCLA's schedule and go look at Indiana's and tell me how difficult, or tell me what Indiana's record would be if they played UCLA's schedule. And for those that don't know what UCLA's schedule looks like, at LSU, Oregon at home, at Penn State, Minnesota at home, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, Iowa, at Washington, SC, and they don't even play Michigan or Ohio State, but look at where you had to go. You had to go to the East Coast multiple times, at Penn State, Oregon. I mean, this is a brutal gauntlet, which is why they started the season 1-5. So, I don't know, man. I think we really need to put more weight into strength of schedule this year than ever before, and I don't know if we're going to do it.
All right, so we'll have more conversation about this a little bit later in the show. Going to get to a break now and, of course, go to Trent Dilfer on the other side. He joins us each and every Monday. Before we do that, the weather feels like it might be cooling off a little bit today. Make sure your HVAC system is ready for the cold weather on the way. For long-term reliability, a Trane home comfort system is your answer. And to give you peace of mind right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with select Trane comfort systems. To learn more, visit Trane.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. UAB head football coach Trent Dilfer next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. 7:20 right here on Jocks 94.5. He joins us each and every week just to catch up on all things UAB. Head football coach Trent Dilfer, and he joins us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. Coach, how are we doing today?
Beaten and battered, but not broken.
Never broken. When you look at from last week, the parts that you feel like you can fix, the things that you can get corrected this week, what do you look at and say, we're going to work on this now because we know I can get that right next time we take the field?
I think offensive turnovers, something we've obviously, since I've been here, probably emphasized more than anything is ball security. We call it life security, yet we continue to die on the field because we turn it over. And then critical stops on defense. If you look at that game, we have a commanding lead. We have 3 first down turnovers in the second half. That's probably 21 plays because you're turning around first down. We average about 7 plays per per drive. And then defensively, we had multiple third down and fourth down opportunities to get off the field during the comeback and didn't get those. So that's the point of emphasis. It has been all season long, but, just kind of harping in on what is winning football and what's losing. Yards is not winning football. Average yards per play against is not winning football. Like all these stats that people look at are not winning football. Winning football is critical stops, critical conversions, don't turn the ball over, score touchdowns instead of kick field goals, hold them to field goals. Football is pretty simple in critical situations, and we've just been atrocious in critical situations.
When you look at how your team starts, though, Coach, and honestly, there's been some really good starts, but it's like the initial surge is great, and then the adjustment period, and then for whatever reason they can't hold on. I know you've looked at everything, but what do you credit the starts to? And just how you guys are able to come out like gangbusters, and you have so regularly this year.
Well, I think it's a good and a bad thing. I think some of it's, emotional. We're charged up. I think our team does a good job of playing with great energy early in games. I think what we don't do a good job of is emotionally regulating when things don't go our way. And every game has adversity. Every game has kind of where you get kicked in the groin and the air's knocked out of you. And it's how you handle those moments. And I think we've done a really poor job handling those moments. So, sure, we come out, we score, we get stops, things are going well, we get a lead, whatever it is, or we start a good drive, or we start a good defensive drive, and then something happens that doesn't go our way, and we haven't been able to overcome those. We haven't been able to stay mentally strong enough to not flinch in those moments. And it's a poor reflection on me. When you're the head coach, you want to build a team that has great mental resolve and has great poise and has a no flinch mentality. And I've not been able to do that to this point.
How do you handle a lead in a game? Because we hear different philosophies all the time of, all right, let's run the ball now. Let's go ahead and throttle back. Or then you get the other side of that is never take your foot off the gas. Keep going. Keep pressing. I'm just interested in your philosophy of once you do go up a score or two and the possibility of maybe saying, all right, let's start slowing this thing down, playing some clock is at least there. Where does your mind go with that?
The term that always hits me, and I've changed over the years, is conservatively aggressive. I think back in my pedigree of football was get a lead, ground and pound, have great defense. That's kind of how I've grown up in the game. But I've seen over time, especially with the aggressiveness of offenses, analytics coming into play where there's more fourth downs that you go for. Teams are more pass-oriented so they can get, more yards quicker. You still have to try to score offensively. You can't just hold on to a lead. But I don't think you can be stupid doing that. I think you have to have safe plays. For instance, the play first time in the history of college football that a forward pass is called a fumble against us, that little forward jet sweep. That's a conservatively aggressive play. You're trying to get the ball on the perimeter. It's like a pass. It is a pass. There's really no downside except for Saturday, because when the ball goes forward, it should be ruled incomplete. It always has been. But, it's your best player on the edge, secure. It's just like throwing a hook route, right, with less risk. I think screens are good calls. You still play action pass because they think you're going to run it. So you're still trying to score, but you're not dropping back in 5- and 6-man protections and exposing, the quarterback to sack fumbles or more interceptions or whatever it is. So I think it's harder sometimes to play with the lead as a play caller, because you do have that in mind and you don't just want to be reckless. I don't agree with these all gas, no brakes teams unless you're superior to your opponent, because you're opening up the opportunity for a comeback. I think you got to be conservatively aggressive.
How would you assess just the team's growth? I know it's easy to say you're defined by wins and losses, but this team has been super competitive here in the back half of the season. So are you satisfied with how much the team has grown from where they were a year ago and the direction, the trajectory that they might be going heading into next year? I know satisfied is probably the wrong word, but does it give you a little solace in knowing it feels like you're moving in the right direction, even though the losses have mounted and the wins have been few and far between?
It does. And I think that's, as a competitor, that's hard, because you do really, the only thing that matters is wins and losses ultimately. But, you are looking for growth. You're looking for resolve. You're looking for a chemistry that's being built in the building. You're looking for the right kind of guys, the guys that will fight and compete regardless of circumstance. You're looking for your coaches and how they handle difficult situations. I've seen a massive trend upwards. I'm really proud of a lot of people in this building. I really, really am. They've gone through a lot. They've had a lot of things going against them, and they haven't given up. They keep fighting. I mean, yesterday I thought it was going to be the worst practice in the history of practices when I met with them in the morning, and yet, they got both feet in the boat and they had a really good practice and rallied, and the energy was great. So I'm an optimist. I always have been. I've been through really difficult times as a player, and I've seen when you handle them well what can come out of those. And I'm really proud of our guys, because I think for the most part we are handling it that way. Now, do we have to continue to make big changes and keep doing things to win games? Absolutely. But there's a lot to be optimistic about when you're in the building every day.
Well, Coach, we know that things are heading in the right direction. This is one of those that you look back on, and I know it just eats at you when you think about just some of the things that did go your way. You outgained this team. You put up good numbers on the ground. It just comes back to those turnovers, like you mentioned, and you get those cleaned up. Things are going to look good here for the rest of the season. We always appreciate your time and definitely look forward to catching up next week.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. UAB head football coach Trent Dilfer joining us there on the Buyers Right hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham group. 2-7 on the season. They'll be at Memphis this weekend, Battle of the Bones. We know what that one means. Obviously, a trinket game and one that's meaningful for a lot of people in this part of the country. And it's going to be tough to go over there and get that win. And you're playing against another physical football team. Had the run game going against UConn. I kind of like some of the stuff that was happening in the run game when I took a peek at this one. And so the creativity is still there offensively. Lee Beebe went 17 for 115, a touchdown on the ground for UAB. They ran for 170 yards and a touchdown. So it's a lot of it's there, Greg. But I mean, you go up 20-3 at the half and give up 21 fourth quarter points. It's just it's unthinkable sometimes how mean football can be and how brutal football can be. But like Coach said in that first answer, ball security, it's the key.
That's the whole key. I mean, how quickly can you go from the penthouse to the outhouse by just putting the ball on the deck? or throwing it into tight coverage, or throwing it into traffic, or just not having good protection. I mean, the number one thing in coaching and in playing is turnovers and explosive plays. Those are the two things that determine wins and losses more than anything else. And if you turn it over a lot, the amount of explosive plays you create, it doesn't matter. I mean, those things are erasers when it comes to your team profile. So I hate that, but it is what it is, and it's something that you'd like to have cleaned up, but it's not something that gets fixed overnight.
No, definitely not. These are how the last 7 drives ended for UAB against UConn. Interception, punt, fumble, downs. So it's good teams know how to close out games. And Coach Dilfer and his crew will continue working towards that and hopefully get it right. We're going to go back to the college football playoff rankings. A couple of you guys tried to get in earlier. Now you can. 800-239-9569. If you'd like to be a part of the show, 205-834-9450. We will discuss where some teams are and continue the conversation on Greg McElroy's impending college football playoff doom next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. College football playoff rankings, second version last night. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5. The second 5 will go BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, 6 through 10. 11 through 15, Ole Miss, Georgia, Boise, SMU, and Texas A&M. So currently, if the playoff field were already projected by the rankings today, Georgia out. Would not be a part of it and would not make it in because obviously Boise at 13, highest ranked conference champion, is going to be able to get in, and they would move towards the college football playoff. Those games would go Ohio State, Boise in the 5-12, winner take on Miami, Tennessee, Notre Dame in an 8-9, winner take on Oregon, Penn State and Ole Miss in the 6-11, winner take on BYU, and then Indiana, Alabama, 7-10 matchup, winner take on Texas. So I don't know if there's one that you look at from that perspective, Greg, that the path would be more beneficial, but you would probably like to avoid Oregon and Texas if at all possible in the second round. But either way, some of those matchups would be fun. And when we get to the top and you look at Oregon, and that's the number 1 team in the nation, we don't spend enough time talking about them being the number 1 team in the nation, G-Mac, and they're there again. Is there a test for them the rest of the way? Is there a game that could potentially be scary the rest of the way for the Oregon Ducks? They have Wisconsin on the road, Washington at home.
I don't see one. Do you?
No.
I mean, I'd love to tell you, hey, there could be a hiccup. I mean, the Big Ten title game. I mean, Oregon's a lock. They're in. They've been a lock for 2 weeks.
The only thing that I'll say, Camp Randall, November 16th, 6:30 at night. We don't know.
I don't think Wisconsin's there right now, man.
Oh, I don't either. But I
agree with you. It's not an easy place to play, especially at night. We said the same thing a couple weeks ago, and who went up there and trounced them with a backup quarterback? That'd be Penn State. And neither you nor I are super sold on Penn State. So I agree with you. In a normal circumstance, that's a really dicey game. But Wisconsin doesn't have any firepower, man. I just think that this whole Big Ten notion of, I just don't think Big Ten's seen anything quite like this outside of Ohio State as far as just weaponry. And Oregon's got speed, they got juice, they got enough on both lines of scrimmage. I like how Oregon's constructed. They're constructed like an SEC team, and that's why I think the Big Ten is really struggling with them right now.
Yep. Your low Saturday night, it's only 46. It's not that bad. So, never mind.
Last night, I was on there, and I was like, man, look at this possibility. I mean, you got 3 Big Ten teams potentially in line to host in early December. And I'm like, I mean, imagine Bama going to Indiana. I mean, you could be facing sub-zero temperatures. And Galloway looked over at me, and Galloway lives in Columbus, Ohio. He looked over at me and goes, have you ever been to the Midwest? I'm like, yes. I lived there for 6 months and said, I'm never coming back. When I left, it was minus 32 degrees. When I left Cincinnati on January 10th of 2014 or whatever, I said, I'm done. I'm never coming back here. I'll play in the NFL again, but I am not playing here. But, I mean, these
just to put it in perspective quickly, Greg, next Saturday, the 23rd, your low at Camp Randall's 29 with a 30% chance of rain. So
you can have that.
That probably a little bit better picture of something along the lines of what you're referencing, which, by the way, Alabama at Indiana, with the storylines would be endless there with Kalen DeBoer and some of his staff. That would be pretty remarkable if that were to go down that way.
That was like the number one takeaway for Heather Dennis last night. I go, hey, because she went to Indiana and obviously me, Bama. I'm like, hey, it'd be fun to go play your boys at your place. She goes, oh, yeah. And I know that Kalen would have a homecoming. They would throw a parade for him. They love him up there. I'm like, really? Kalen and Kane and Nick Sheridan, all those guys haven't been on staff up there before.
All right. So your issues with the college football playoff rankings as they stand today, 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. Greg discussed a little bit earlier in the show just about how problematic this could be for the Southeastern Conference with what's ahead and then maybe where some teams are right now. I feel like looking yesterday, Georgia fans rightfully were frustrated. To go from where you did all the way down to 12 And here's the other part, Greg. Like, if you want to say, all right, you look bad against Ole Miss. No, didn't look great. I don't think there's really any denying that. You can't take much away from that. That's fine.
And no one's going to push back on that.
But you lost at Alabama in a game in which you had one of the worst starts in school history. You battled back, made it a game, had the lead late, and you dropped that one. Well, the committee, thinks pretty fondly of Alabama. I'm not saying that it's out of whack how they feel about Alabama, but they are the highest ranked 2-loss team. So some of that should go as credit to Georgia, I would think. But they dominated the number 3 team on the road. And I think that individually is what frustrates me most about Georgia falling 9 spots, is they went to Austin, Texas and beat that team up. And it's almost like that was not paid attention to when, and again, I go back to what I said earlier. It almost appears as though we don't feel like we can move Ole Miss up past 11, so we have to put Georgia behind them.
Yep. And I think that's part of the problem. I mean, I really think right now Georgia is a team that nobody really wants to play, but where do you put them? Here's the thing. Like, everyone can cry foul with the committee, and I get that. The committee ticks me off more than it ticks you off, probably. I don't know, but it might tick us off equally, Cole, you and I. But to the audience, I'm probably more TO'd when I sit up there on Tuesday nights than you. I really am. The level of inconsistency is mind-blowing. But that's not the conversation to be had today. The hand that we've been dealt is the hand that we've been dealt. But in the committee's defense, where should Georgia be ranked? I mean, in all seriousness, like, what would satisfy their fans? Like, what would be an appropriate ranking for them? Because you can't put them ahead of Bama. You can't put them ahead of Ole Miss.
It's fair.
You can't put Bama ahead of Tennessee, and you can't put Ole Miss by way of strength of schedule against Alabama.
And that's where I think that's what's going to force people to get frustrated, is because it's that old game that we have to play, or at least committees or voters feel like they have to play, and that is they beat them, so they have to beat there, but they lost to them, so they have to be there. Like, I saw a lot of Tennessee fans big mad last night about, how can
you jump by BYU?
How can Texas be ahead of us? Or how that far ahead of us? How can BYU be ahead of us? And it's you kind of sit back sometimes and you forget, like, hey, that team you lost to is 5-4 and doesn't have a ton of great wins. So
yes,
but
they do have an argument. They do have an argument.
I didn't say they don't, but I'm just you have to at least look at that side of it as well. So, and I feel like that part was ignored.
I think that's a totally fair point. Everyone's going to speak their truth as if it's the only, like, you can, whatever agenda you support. If you're I think Tennessee is a little underrated, personally. Now, I think Tennessee should be behind BYU. With all due respect to Tennessee, BYU has a really good resume too, and they haven't lost. So I think and it hasn't been pretty, I think BYU has justifiably moved in front of Tennessee. Now, the committee fixed that last night. They were listening. They can say they don't listen. BYU was 9 last week, and they now have moved in front of Tennessee, who won convincingly. So the committee can sit there all they want. Oh, we start from blank slate. We don't listen to the outside noise. Yeah, you do. We told you were wrong with BYU last week, and you made the adjustment. And good for you. It's okay to acknowledge when you made a mistake. So BYU moves up to 6, which makes sense. And Tennessee, I think, absolutely has an argument to be made that they should be alongside, at worst, Texas, Penn State, and Indiana. Indiana's undefeated. I get that. But Tennessee's best win against Alabama got better last week. Texas's best win against Vanderbilt got worse last week. Penn State hasn't beaten anybody. They beat a 6-3 Illinois team that's moving in the wrong direction. So I think Tennessee is justifiably upset. But here's what I would tell Tennessee fans. Just win, baby. Like, you win this weekend, you're in great shape. Like, you lose this weekend, then we have to sort the minutia. And to be honest with you, if you are an Alabama fan right now, listen to me from an Alabama's fan's perspective. If I were you, I'd be rooting for Tennessee this weekend. It might weaken your best win, But you do not want to have Tennessee and Alabama in a head-to-head because that is not a winning argument for you. I'm just telling you. What do you think about that?
No,
Cole?
I think it's a lot of that's accurate. A lot of that's fair. I'd be on board with a lot of it. I want to give our listeners a chance to chime in quickly. Doug in Mountainville wants to talk college football playoff on the Buyers Right hotline. Welcome in, Doug.
Yeah, real quick, I also agree with what Greg said. I'm an Alabama fan, and I don't want to play for the SEC championship. It's not worth it. I'd rather have that bye week and, go play in Indiana somewhere versus losing to Texas or somebody like that. And then I get bumped out, and I find that I'm number 13 or 14, come selection day. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on.
Don't say that, Doug. I'm just telling you, they are not going to penalize teams that is bad policy. If they start penalizing teams that would otherwise have had the head-to-head that had to play in the conference championship game, the commissioners will get involved in that scenario. Because, you're penalizing me because I had to play while Notre Dame was sitting there twiddling their thumbs. You're penalizing me while I had to go play because Ole Miss was chilling at home. Georgia was chilling at home. No. You want to be in the SEC championship game because they will reward the SEC championship game loser before they reward the teams that were sitting at home on conference championship Saturday. They haven't said that, but I would be shocked if they didn't.
So if you were a Miami fan, would you feel comfortable if you played SMU and lost in the ACC championship game?
That's a different conference. The ACC and the Big 12
commissioners, though.
Well, it doesn't matter. They don't have the say. The juice is with the SEC and the Big 10. With all due respect to Jim Phillips and with the commissioner of the Big 12. I understand where you're coming from, but if you're in the SEC, it's different. If you're in the Big 10, it's different. The Big 12 and the ACC are likely one-bid leagues. Your conference championship game is a playoff game. And that's the beauty of having a great league, is that you are afforded a little bit more cushion, whereas if you're Miami now, because of your loss last week, you're on thin ice.
I'm going to save my thoughts on the championship game because Chris in Coleman also wants to chime in on that. Chris, welcome into the show. You're on the Buyers Right
Hey, guys.
hotline.
Morning.
Yeah, Doug right there touched on it, and all around that. But Greg, this is where I want to throw the devil's advocate scenario in there.
Don't do it again.
Please.
The committee has a short-term memory, and I'll reference what did Georgia do to Texas? They don't care. They done forgot. So I, as an Alabama fan, and please guide my vision on this, but I would much rather be, like Doug said, instead of the risk of a 3-loss team, it's the 3-loss. It's not the SEC loser in the championship game. It's the 3-loss SEC team. And I think that's the view, because we're seeing, 2 losses comfortable, 3 losses, nobody's getting in. And I think that's the concern.
Well, we don't know that nobody's going to get in. But I understand where you're going with that. I'll say what I said yesterday about this. You got to look at the other side of it. You say you don't want to go to the SEC championship game because you don't want to play your way out of the college football playoff. Well, how about playing your way into a bye? No, I don't want the bye week and then play more elimination games. I want the chance to earn less elimination games to go win a championship. Derek wants to chime in. Welcome in, Derek.
Hey, man, they kind of stole my thunder a little bit there. I was talking about the same thing. Do you think eventually they kind of covered? Do you think eventually the conferences will start doing away with the championship games?
No, because they make a ton of money. They make a ton of money. No.
I still think it would benefit someone
Derek, let's
to
look at, but
not
this
make
is
it.
Derek. This is this year's scenario. Let's fast forward to a certain conference, any conference where it's not as powerful. There's not multiple undefeated or multiple one-loss teams. How about your team having a chance to play their way into the playoff when they normally had no chance of getting in? And you win your conference and you're in.
That's true. Former players like you guys are, though, that bye week sure is nice, though, isn't it? To say, hey, we don't have to go play in that championship game.
Well, so is playing in SEC. I played in 2 SEC championship games. It was pretty badass. I'm going to be honest with you. We lost them both. That sucked. But, I mean, I want to play football. Yeah, I mean, getting healthy, having a bye week is great. But if you tell me, hey, guys, we can go sit at home and no matter what, we're going to have to play more playoff games to maybe win a championship. Or we can go play this game and we might be able to earn a bye. and not have to play as many elimination games to win a championship. That's easy for me.
I'm with you. I don't understand the thought. Like, I want to control my own destiny. Based on what we saw last year, we just saw this a year ago where a 13-0 ACC champion Florida State Seminoles were left out of the playoff. And I know it's a different format. I get that. All right, I understand that now we have accounted for conference championships and there's automatic qualifiers and all this other stuff. Guys, do you want your future in the hands of the 13-member playoff committee? Because they have shown us last year, that they will exclude a 13-0 conference champion. Like, do you want to run the risk of that, or do you want to assure yourself, 100% guarantee yourself a spot in the college football playoff? I personally would like to sleep at night after the conference championship games in victory, knowing that I am 100% in the field. I don't want to leave anything to chance. And everyone just assumes, oh, wait, if we're 10-2, we're in. If we're 10-2, we're in. We didn't play in the conference championship, we're in. You don't know that for sure. You don't know what could happen because the committee could all of a sudden take you like they did TCU in 2014. TCU was number 3 going in to the final college football playoff rankings. Number 3. And then they didn't play on championship Saturday. Actually, they did, but it was a regular season game. Then they moved from 3 to 6 and didn't make the playoff in 2014. Do you really want to leave it up to the committee, or do you want to control your own destiny? I, for one, want to control my own destiny.
Yeah, got to get to a break. We'll come back. The better example of that may be Georgia last year, who none of us did not think was one of the best 4 teams in college football. They went to the SEC championship game and didn't get in. So they would have sat home. Were they in? I don't know. We'll be back with more next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We'll tell you guys about Game Day Men's Health in just a moment. We've got Brian Vincent, ULM head coach, coming on after our next break. They're going to be at Auburn this weekend. Pete Thamel coming up at 9 o'clock. Talk to Nico Iamaleava and his latest. Will he go against Georgia this weekend? We'll ask Pete at 9 a.m. Game Day Men's Health wants to help you feel better. If you are on edge, lack energy, getting poor sleep, could be the effects of low testosterone. Here's what they want to do for you. Sign up now, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. And Game Day Men's Health going to give you a free PSA test, free testosterone test, give you baseline where your health is right this second. They've helped me with a couple things. They can help you as well, taking a holistic approach to health and wellness. Weight loss programs, right now, they're available for you at Game Day Men's Health. Testosterone replacement therapy has many benefits, can help you with better mood, sleep, less brain fog, more energy, enhanced muscle mass. Also, think about this with Game Day Men's Health. You're getting that free testosterone, free PSA test. They're also going to give you minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer. That's different than anywhere else in town. And you mentioned Cube, you save 10% on any service that they offer. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. All right, Brian Vincent on the other side as we will talk the ULM Warhawks traveling to Auburn this weekend. What are the Tigers going to face? Well, the head coach of the Warhawks joins us next to give us a little bit of a preview right here on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8 a.m., Wednesday, November 13th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Going to go right to the Buyers Right hotline. Welcome in Brian Vincent, head coach of the ULM Warhawks. And, Coach, you got a big one this weekend. We'll get to Auburn in just a moment. 5-4 on the season. You guys have had to deal with a quarterback change. You've got a young football team, but the thing that sticks out the most for me when I watch your group is just how physical you are and the attacking style specifically of your defense. When you have a younger team and you've had to overcome a little bit of adversity, how do you continue to get your guys playing at that level?
I think the key is just the foundation that has to be set, from January on. And then in today's, as you add players, whether you add them in January, you add them in May and June, it's got to be a constant message and a daily message of what your foundation is and what you have to be able to stand on. Because there's going to be, tough times, man. There's going to be, failure and understanding how to fix failure and understanding, just what it is and how you work through it. And it is coming. It's how you build a program. And I think our kids we've stood on the foundation. There hadn't been any negativity. We understand the journey that we're on, and we want to see where we're at, when that last second ticks off the season, because then that's over. Each season is kind of life in its own, and we try to pride ourselves on being tough, on being physical, on being, great teammates, those core standards that you got to stand on. And, we're in phase one, year one, and we added 73 players to this roster since we first got here. And I'm just, our kids, I'm proud of our kids, man, because they just keep battling and we keep battling and we don't get down. And hey, when it's over, we look in the mirror and see who we are and we own it. And then we try to fix failure or continue to fix, the things that we got to do. We continue to build this program.
Coach, I haven't had a chance to talk to you really since you got the job last December, but couldn't be happier for you. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Thrilled that you have this opportunity and at a place that has a lot of talent in your own backyard, man. So I'll just start with saying that because Cole doesn't share your number, so I don't get to talk to you. He tries to protect you, but really happy for you. Really happy for you, man. Look, you guys, your identity is. It's very clear. Not a team that really wants to throw the football a whole lot. Not a team that wants to drop back and do all these different things. You want to live by running the football. You want to live in 12 personnel as often as you can. So looking at just how you've kind of established this offensive identity, kind of what went into it.
I think the biggest thing when you're going into year one in phase one, and we're an outside zone, we believe in running outside zone. And we believe in being able to establish and be able to run the football, to win. Then that's phase number one. How many games, what gives us the best opportunity to win? It's to play great defense. 22 of the 31 guys we signed that we brought in mid-year were defensive players. And we wanted to build the defense and the offensive line first. And we were able to do that early. And then we knew we had to go out and get, the tight ends to really fit what we wanted to do and the running backs. So we were able to add 42 guys in May. But right now, the thing on this, we want to run the ball first and foremost on offense. And we want to be in 12. And we want to play action, and we want to be all the next and the fields. The thing that we haven't been able to do in year one is really stretch the field. All the years at UAB, we had the Schropp and Austin Watkins and Myron Mitchell, and we had guys that, you could really stretch the defense. And we haven't had as many explosive plays down the field, as we would like. But I think the thing is, defensively, we played hard. We played tough. We've kept us in games. We've tried to win situational football, not turn it over, be great, in high red and low red, third downs, fourth downs. We've struggled on third downs this year offensively. We really have. And it's been frustrating, but you just got to continue to work and continue to develop your roster. So we got a lot of these guys offensively that are playing for us. We got them in June. And but they're doing a good job. We're getting better. We're growing. Defensively, our effort has been tremendous, and our toughness. I think, Coach Hill's done a great job, and our defensive staff and our kids, we bought into the mission of really who we are. We were 134. We started the season as the worst team in the country. We got off to a great start. We beat some really good teams, and they were all close games. And, as the season goes and your roster isn't built the way you want with depth-wise, you start getting thin. And we played a really good schedule with some really good teams. When we fought, we've got to find a way to finish. And, our goal year one was to get bowl eligibility for the second time in school history, to win the bowl game for the first time in school history, be the first ever bowl champion, and win the West. And we set our expectations high, and we don't back down from them. And we just focus on getting better one day at a time and truly becoming, a team that cares and truly cares about each other.
Brian Vincent, ULM head football coach, joining us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. One of those guys that's going to help you out and continue to be what you are and has already, freshman running back Ahmad Hardy, 6 100-yard games this year. He has been incredible. Did you know what you had as soon as he got on campus? When did you kind of realize, all right, this is going to be a young man that we might be able to build our offense around?
Well, when we got here December the 7th, he was the first player that I went and saw personally. And I understood exactly, he reminded me of Dwayne McBride. We signed Dwayne McBride at UAB. And I went right to him. I had film of Debo. I had film of Skull. I had film of Spencer Brown, and I said, this is you. And I said, this is what we're going to do with you. He's violent. He gets downhill. He has mentality. He has all the things that we were truly looking for, in what we do offensively, running our outside zone. And shoot, we got him. We signed him. He wanted to be involved and do what we do, and he's flourishing. And it's hard to get good at outside zone year one, because it's a process, and it's a method, and you've got to run it over. You got to marry it. You can't divorce it. If you're going to run outside zone, you got to marry it, and you got to stick through the good and the bad. And he's really gotten where he understands it, and he understands the pressing points, and he understands how to set the blocks up. And his growth the last probably 4 weeks has been tremendous. But he is the hardest practice player I've seen in over 10 years. Every single day. And we've got to hold him back. And he's hard on himself. He's not common. And he's had a tremendous year. We just looking forward to him finishing, and he's always, trying to improve his game. He's a country kid. He likes hunting and fishing. He doesn't like social media, and he's a great teammate.
How can you find more guys that don't like social media? That seems like it should be part of the recruiting bio nowadays. It really does. Looking at kind of where things are defensively, you guys have been pretty good through the air, but defending the run. You would think for a team that runs the ball as well as you guys do, that running the ball would be such a huge emphasis in practice. But there's been some challenges in that area. How do you shore that thing up down the stretch and maybe make that a point of emphasis moving forward?
We just got to continue to work on our technique. We've got to continue, to get 11 hats to the ball, and we've just got to continue to work on the base fundamentals of, we've been in position, just blocking and tackling, being able to wrap up, run through your opponent, get 11 guys there. And we got to get more takeaways. Early in the year, we were doing a great job, and you get takeaways with great effort and great toughness, because effort and toughness provide opportunities. And, we're one of those guys. We're also, we're thin. So it's a tricky deal here, and you're going into an SEC opponent, week 10 with 2 huge conference games behind it. So, look, Auburn's got a good football team. If you sit there and you really look at those guys and you look at them offensively and defensively in the kicking game, they're impressive now. You look at them defensively, man, they are young. They are coached extremely well. Their effort,
their communication, their eyes, their discipline. These guys, they're coming up under 20 points a game. They're top 25. I think that, obviously I think turnovers have cost them some really close games, or they could easily be sitting there at 7-3.
Brian Vincent, ULM head football coach, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Coach, before we let you run, you've mentioned a lot of what you guys do, both offensively and defensively. How do you attack this Auburn team this weekend? How do you find success on both sides of the ball?
I mean, the biggest thing, we've got established drives on offense, plain and simple. These guys Coach Durkin does a tremendous job. He really does. This is one of the best coach defenses I've seen in a while, and they're all in unison. They're fast. They're athletic. You look at them, you see all the youth on this defense, and the way they're playing, though, is extremely impressive. But we've got to establish drives. We've got to be great on third down to extend drives, to stay on the field, to protect our defense and play complementary football. And our defense, when we're on the field, we've got to get 11 hats to the field, to the ball. We've got to do a great job of tackling and win situational football. When it's third down, we've got to make a play and get off the field so we can continue, to give ourselves an opportunity in the second half.
Coach, quickly, real quick, Coach. ULM, I don't remember this, but it apparently happened in 2007. Came to Tuscaloosa and got a big win. Is that something you reference as a program? Is that something you point to? I know it's been some of these kids weren't even born when that game took place, but do you point to that and said, hey, we've risen to the mountaintop before? Like, how do you approach kind of referencing yesteryear when assessing where things are with this year's group?
I don't think so. I really think it's all about, the situation that we're in as a program, the situation of where we're at as a team, and the mission that we're on. And to me, when you're building a program and you're starting from the bottom at 134 like we have, it's about a one-day deal. It's about a one-snap approach. And we don't care what the score says. We didn't go into James Madison. We didn't go into UAB. We didn't go into Southern Miss. We didn't go into any of those games saying, hey, we can win. No. We said, hey, put the ball down and let's play one snap at a time of everything we got. And then, doesn't matter, up, down, score, good, bad, put it down. Everything we got. And when the game's over, we'll figure it out. And that's how we got to build this program. We've got to build it off mentality and toughness, and it doesn't matter. We're not a results-driven. We're a snap-driven, day-driven, drive-driven team is our philosophy. To get out of the bottom, to get out of the basement, and we're on our way. We really are. We're on our way, and been proud of our kids' mentality because it's not easy, but we've accepted it. We embrace it. We own it, and we've got 3 opportunities left to get in the second bowl game in school history.
It's been competitive at Auburn. Put that 2012 film on of Colton Browning. He had a chance to beat Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium late. I think Todd Berry was coaching that team. They were scrappy. They had an opportunity to do it. So, Coach, we appreciate the time. It's great catching up with you, man. Always enjoy talking football with you, and look forward to catching up again soon.
You got it, Cole. Hey, Greg, good talking to you. Appreciate you guys having me on, man. Everything you do, man. Anything you need, you always hit me up. Go Warhawks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach. Brian Vincent, ULM head football coach, bringing his team to Auburn this weekend off a bye. There are some quarterback concerns for Auburn. It's a team that can run the football. It's a team that plays hard. They're aggressive defensively. We know Auburn's had some issues with teams that do a lot of different things up front. Cavante Wells, a guy that I think is going to be one that you watch defensively. I think he's number 18. He'll be in the backfield. He can be a problem. Also, a couple guys just on that front 7 that can get to the quarterback. Billy Pullen, number 5 for ULM, just a blitzing linebacker. Just be careful up front with what you're dealing with there. Now, you got a younger quarterback that took over for General Booty after a couple games into the year. That could be an area where Auburn's defense should have some success, but we'll see this weekend. Should be an interesting game. I know a lot of Auburn fans hope it won't be, but could be. Always an interesting trip to the pant store, Greg, because there's so many different options that you have.
Yeah, it's the homie. Everything you might need from a game day standpoint, head to toe. As it starts to cool off, go get some layers. Go get taken care of with some of the best brands, Antigua, Gentile. You have several others that are fantastic, like Horn Legend. Go get you a quarter zip. Go get you a hoodie. Maybe go get you a pullover, whatever it may be. They got you taken care of at the pants store. And ladies, they got stuff for you as well. Go get you some boots. Go get some shoes, whatever you might need. They got dresses. Everything that you could possibly want, they have it at the pants store, so you can go and make sure that game day is all set up. They also have those clear purses, so you can zip on through security looking as cute as can be. Zip on down to the pants store for all your game day needs.
Okay. We will be back to discuss the college football playoff. Get your reaction to it. We'll take more calls on it. 800-239-9569 next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Did you come back to this song because you knew we were going to talk playoff rankings? You're saying the system's broken already? We're just starting. We're just now getting going. Can't say it's broken already, John. Appreciate Brian Vincent hanging out. That podcast available at jocksfm.com. Pete Thamel coming up at 9 o'clock, 8:19 a.m. Wednesday, November 13th, right here on Jocks 94.5. We blew past the top three because we spent so much time talking about the playoff a little bit earlier, so we will go to it now. It can be sports. It can be anything, usually sensical something it's not. What do we have on top 3 today, Damian.
It's a nice blend today.
That's your opinion.
So you, as we all are, WWE fans, we're used to be at one point in time. Survivor Series is coming up. So it's gonna, I guess, technically be like a top 4. But if you had to do the traditional five-person tag team match, which 4 other college football coaches and yourself would you pick?
Hold on. 5-person tag match?
Yeah, it's a Survivor Series thing. Do it every year.
They do that.
Like
They do.
There's 5 on each team?
Yes. And it's elimination tag. They've done it for multiple years. Multiple.
Okay, well, I mean, I
it used to be
think
like
the
Team
last Survivor
SmackDown.
Series I watched was like Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match.
Oh yeah, so it's been a while.
It's one of the greatest matches in history, but you can poop on it if you want.
No, I was just saying it's been a while since you watched Survivor Series.
Wow.
But no, it's usually brand on brand because it used to be Team SmackDown versus Team Raw, and they would have like a random. They have like matches of who could qualify to be on the team.
Like I remember that happening. I just don't remember it being an annual thing. I'm not saying it's not.
It is.
I just feel like it should have got more pub if so.
It's so annual. None of us have heard of it outside of him.
Which have you heard? I guess more recent, that or Eagle Lackadaisical or whatever we had yesterday.
Oh no! Don't do that again. There were accusations thrown out with that. Ridiculous.
Lackadaisical?
No. What other word you used?
Egalitarianism?
Correct.
Yeah.
What was the accusation?
Oh, that we were going political. Apparently.
What? What?
Just people are going to listen and hear whatever they want, man. I can't control what people say. I just hit mute and move on. That's the easiest way to handle it.
There's one thing that I've noticed is that, when we reference the potential egalitarianism of the College Football Playoff Committee, I definitely think about politics. Definitely.
I think about politics about one night every 4 years. So y'all can have it. Good for you for thinking that that's on the front of our minds.
I feel like, do I want to rewatch West Wing or not?
Yeah,
that's about it.
I'd have to watch it for the first time before I actually rewatched it.
Wow.
I'm
shocked that Cole isn't moved by a political drama.
That is very not on brand for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
I could see him watching the what's the show with the motorcycle guys that go to Ireland?
Excuse me?
Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy. That feels more like
I've
Cole.
already told you I watched that show.
Oh yeah, he's in on that. Yeah.
Of course you did.
Because it's one of the most ridiculous shows ever. These guys they got RPGs and grenade launchers in a town of like 1,500 people, and like the FBI never shows up.
Yeah,
they just keep putting them in jail and then they get out.
It's basically Yellowstone
on bikes. Is all it is.
Motorcycles.
Yellowstone. We dynamite a side of a mountain for a pond or a stream, yet nobody ever shows up to do anything. Cool. We bomb a building in downtown, one of the 3 buildings we have. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
That's because you can't come into our Montana.
Listen, I still watch it. I'm just saying. It doesn't mean it's not ridiculous.
You can't come into our biker gang. You can't do it.
All right. Who am I taking? How many do I need to choose? 4?
4.
All right.
I don't even care, nor do I even remember what the question is. So if you could remind me.
Wow.
5 coaches
he needs a reminder.
4 coaches.
Others.
That I need to fight with?
Yeah. Elimination
that are on
team.
my team?
Yep.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Sure, go
ahead, brother.
All right, cool. Because I feel like Cole's going to put real thought into this.
I am.
For one,
I'm thinking about it right now.
I am going to object to how dumb this question is by answering in the dumbest possible way. The 5 coaches I would take for a tag team death match are Mac Brown. He's going to coach us up.
Him and Ric Flair would probably that'd be a nice little 1-2.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mac Brown. I'm going to go Brett Bielema.
Got a good 30 seconds of work there.
Yep. We're gonna be hell in a handbasket for 30. Let me look up the oldest Division I FBS coaches. Those are the ones that I want.
I think you've hit the oldest.
You're kind of already there.
This is the dumbest one we've ever done, probably. All right, I'll take Saban because can't beat coach.
I don't believe he coaches right now.
Doesn't matter. Still can't beat him.
Is this head coaches, Damian? Or
Yeah, head coaches.
Okay, all right. So I can't choose Petrino because he fell off a motorcycle and still was
All
able
right.
to. So okay.
I mean, if we're going celebrity deathmatch, and this is for my survival, give me Clark Lee, Mario Cristobal, John Sumrall, and Jeff Brom.
Damn.
All right, that's not bad. All right, you want to do it? All right, you want to do it for real?
I do think like people have these coaches fight conversations all the time. I think Jeff Brom is probably the most underrated in this aspect in all of college football. I think Jeff Brom could ruin you.
Killer.
But everybody just thinks he's a quarterback, he's soft. But which
He was
90% of the time that's applicable. Yes, he was the one.
Do I have a pulse?
Like, let's go.
Am I breathing? I like that.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. I'm good with him. All right, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna take Barry Odom.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna take.
I'll be honest with you. I almost went Dillingham just because he's like 22.
Yeah,
But then I don't know if he can really go. Like at least we know he's not going to be injured.
No way he can go. All right, I got it. I got this dialed in now. I feel good about it. All right, you ready?
Let's do
All
it.
right, so first overall pick for me, I'm taking Marcus Freeman. Dude's a monster.
Yep.
Absolute beast. Number 2 overall pick, Luke Fickell, who
He was on
was
the
a
short
high
list.
school wrestler
good one.
and is not someone you want to be on the wrong side of the room against. That guy's a beast. Next up, Ryan Walters at Purdue. Guy played linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, yep. I'll roll the dice there. Feel pretty good about the possibilities of that one coming to light.
Feel pretty good about you being a Big Ten guy all of a sudden.
I got Barry
B1G
Odom
Greg.
I got Barry Odom already. And then finally, to put a cap on it, I'll take Clark Lee. Okay. So I actually feel pretty good about my team.
Yeah, no, it's a good list.
B1G Mac was right there. I could have gone with that. Yeah.
If you got further down your list, would PJ Fleck be in or out?
He's top 10, I think.
A lot of energy.
Right.
Yeah.
He did play in the NFL, but he played at wide receiver. So is that really like a tough guy
counts.
position? Diva position.
He was football smart, right? Good route runner.
Yeah. Sneaky
coach on the
athletic.
field.
Sneaky
Slot
athletic
guy,
for sure.
exclusive in the slot.
Yep. Possession receiver.
Absolutely.
Quicker than he is fast.
No way, how it wasn't short area quickness.
Yeah. Catches everything. Yeah.
All right, John.
For me, in no particular order, I'm taking Clark Lee. That dude
Yes.
will probably carry the team. I take Ryan Day because if he's willing to beat up an old man and Lou Holtz, you want him on your side.
Wow.
Man,
On
jeez.
in a Survivor Series. I'm going to take Eli Drinkwitz because
Really?
I feel like he would.
I feel like Drinkwitz could be kind of your Jimmy Hart. Like he distracts
more so,
everybody and
correct,
talks to
right,
him,
yes.
and you're like, "What did that guy just say?" And here comes the
He's
steel chair from the
he's
side.
my Paul Heyman.
Got it.
Like he'll be there. I don't know how much.
Let's hope
he'll
he's
help
not the last
physically.
one in your group standing, or else you're going
Correct,
down.
And lastly, I'm taking Fran Brown because if this dude's not going to shower after he loses,
fair.
ain't no one gonna
Fran
wanna
Brown
be
be
around
good
that.
help.
That feels
I like
a little Eddie Guerrero like just whatever it takes to win. Yeah,
Eddie Guerrero, cheat to win.
yeah.
Oh.
I don't deserve a shower. I don't deserve soap.
Don't deserve soap after a loss.
It's amazing.
That's
He's
a little
married
wicked.
too. Whew.
Oh man, mine would be Clark Lee, Marcus Freeman, Kirby Smart, and kind of a wild card, because I like his demeanor on the sideline. I think he got a little juice to him. Brent Venables.
Venables ain't gonna quit. I'm gonna tell you that. I mean, like he'd bite your ankles if you had to.
Maybe.
Guys out there running stadiums every day. I think another one that's sort of slipped through the cracks for me that I think could be low key really good to have on your team, Kalani Sitake.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
killer.
Yeah.
I think Kalani.
I love that dude.
He could probably ruin you. And you,
Yeah, I always
he would
forget
talk to you
about him.
first, and you'd think, "Oh, this is going to go well because he's the nicest guy ever." And then he just backhand
The bell would ring
knock
and then
you
it's
down.
over.
It's over with.
Yeah. I feel like Kirby's aging, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Smart?
tackled Kirby Smart, so I ain't scared
Yeah,
of him.
he's
Was it easy?
No,
Should,
Kirby
should
Smart.
not
That
be
means a turnover.
Most people wouldn't be bragging about
Exactly. That means
tackling a guy who intercepted your quarterback, but hey,
Someone had to get him down.
you gotta get it in when you can.
he didn't score that play.
He didn't
Yeah,
score.
I tackled him. I
I
tackled
put
him.
him in the date.
That's wild.
Does that say more about Kirby? Or does that say more about you?
Me, because he was sneaky fast. I was just slow.
Yes.
Literally
He was
a coach on the field.
Coach on the
Literally.
field.
Yeah.
He was hard-nosed.
And he was
He'd
not
come
very
up and
elusive
hit
on
you
that
in the
play.
hole. You didn't want to leave him in the coverage.
Well, they did, unfortunately for us.
Open field tackle. Was it like on the sideline or was it like just?
No, the clip's floating around out there. I'll get it for you. It wasn't on the sideline. No, it was,
Oh, I thought you
kind
kinda
of
like
middle of
just
the field. He was trying to juke somebody. We got him down. Also think Sean Clark will have to be on the short list.
Who was the guy? No, none of y'all went Mike Gundy.
No.
That's a pretty boy. Yeah, pass.
I'll tell you another one too. Who I think low key could probably hurt you is Jay Norvell.
Yeah, he's got a little swag to him.
I feel like that could be one that would help you a little bit. Where are we
I
on
feel like I
Matt
need to go
Campbell?
back to- No, not
No?
Have you done one of his games?
Yeah, he's great.
He's long, but he's not big enough.
Okay.
I need a guy. I needed a little bit more size. Gosh, I'm looking at some of these names. Like Dave Aranda's, I feel like he could do like a samurai.
You'd never see it
like,
coming.
No, 100%. He would like throw a dart, like have some unbelievable like play. Like he's a stone cold killer that just will stare at you and maybe just kill you with his eyes.
Oh God, we left one of the best off this list.
How? Who?
A guy who would just like with his bare hands not think twice about it. Dave Dorn.
Oh God, yeah. Kyle Whittingham and Dave Doran. Those are two.
Whittingham's getting up there a little bit. If this 10 years ago, he's on top of my list. Dave Dorn takes me as a guy that sits there and just take punches in the face and just they don't even affect him. He just sits there and looks at you.
He's like the
all
Hulk. He'll just keep. Come on.
Here we go.
What about
shaking his head.
Shiano? What about Shiano?
About
Gritty.
8-9 years ago.
Yeah. He's up
Past
there.
his
A
prime?
little
In
bit.
age, yeah.
A little bit.
Billy Napier.
Low key would probably hurt you. Yeah.
Derek Mason.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Derek take you down.
D Mace.
Yes. Low center of gravity, too. Like,
Oh, yeah. Low man
Derek
wins.
Mason looks like a wrestler, like his build. He looks like a wrestler. Not this
All
kind
right,
of wrestler
so-
either.
No.
So
real
let's
one,
take
yeah.
this one step further here. Of the guys that played quarterback, you got Brom number 1.
Yes.
I'll read out some others. Okay, I'm just curious, like where your thoughts are with some of these guys. GJ Kinney at Texas State. No, yes or no?
He's in probably more of the yes category, yes.
All right, Major Applewhite, South Alabama.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
No, out.
He ain't.
He's not.
All right.
He's not in this category. No, great coach.
All right, Clay Helton.
Uh,
George Southern.
Closer to the yes than the no.
All right, Steve Sarkisian.
Not for this. No. Oh,
He's got
actually,
some
I mean,
killer.
I go back to that Alamo Bowl. Like,
About to say,
run
he's
out.
a killer.
He can flip the switch.
It's in
You got to
there.
get him there, though. Here's the thing. Like, he needs to take some shots first.
Yeah.
Heupel.
Probably gas out too quick,
Yeah,
but
it
yeah.
feels-
Wow.
Otherwise, yes.
Okay, here we go.
Need a
I see
first
where
round
we're going
knockout.
now.
But first couple blows, he'd be
there.
good.
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I think low key could probably. He's in shape now too. So
I think you got to get him there too.
I think Kalen's one of those sneaky ones. Like guy hits 600 in baseball. Like he's bigger than you think. He's a kind of a big guy. Like he's kind of a sneaky one there that you
I
might
could
not
see
wanna
him
mess
like the
with.
old school, like the 70s wrestling. Like he walks up to shake your hand and he shakes your hand and he gives you like the kick in the stomach
Oh, yeah.
right when he shakes your hand. Yep.
Jason Candle. That's one that you forgot.
Yeah, I think size probably going to work against him there.
Yeah, he's not known for his length or size. Jim Mora. That's a good one. Killer.
God, he
be
hates
feisty.
everybody.
Hopefully, no
Sonny-
disqualification.
Sonny Cumbie.
I feel like probably scrappier than people give him credit for. Yeah.
I would agree with that. All you had to do is watch him as the interim head coach at Texas Tech when they played in that bowl game and how ready his team was to play and how they wanted to fight everybody and how he basically encouraged them, like, I don't care if you get a whistle, you're playing. If you get a flag, you're playing through the whistle, like on every snap. I'll tell you one that's sneaky back in his day because he's kind of a big guy, Gus Malzahn.
He is bigger than you would think.
Yeah.
Gus.
The old, I don't know about in the ring. That's not how I view him.
it's
But yeah.
kinda,
No.
All right. How about Prime? No Prime?
Well,
If he had all 5 toes,
yes. I think,
the speed would,
yeah. I think lateral quickness is probably good. Lateral agility is going to
Yeah.
be an issue now.
You ain't getting past him. You know one you forgot? Justin Wilcox.
Yeah, he'll ruin you.
Ruin you. I'll give you another one. Dilfer.
Yes.
He's the one that started all our conversations about how quarterbacks are bigger than people think.
Man, what?
Yeah. I mean,
quarterbacks are bigger, stronger, and tougher than people realize. But
that's because people don't
that's
realize
fine.
they're any
Everyone
of those
wants
things.
to just rip us.
No.
That's fine.
I think so. SEC Media Days a couple years ago, I saw when you stood beside Aaron Murray. I don't know if y'all were somewhere. Aaron Murray's a lot shorter than I thought. But also, Greg, you're a lot taller than I thought.
Aaron Murray was a tough football player.
Yeah, for sure.
Aaron was a good player.
He's just not as big as I thought he would be.
He's small. Aaron's not a big guy.
Nope.
Yeah. No Stoops for y'all?
Listen, he's a little past his
prime. If you give him a weapon,
I'm still telling you right now, he would literally pull the brass knuckles out of the pants.
You give him one weapon. Honestly, you give people a bunch of guns and you give Stoops brass knuckles, I might still take Stoops.
If you'd have labeled
he has to have a weapon.
If you'd have labeled this Mexican street fight rules, I think I may have taken Stoops first. Because that guy will do anything he can.
By any means necessary.
Absolutely. All right, good stuff. Top 3 today. When we come back, more on the college football playoff and some other college football news floating around we need to get to next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. College hoops last night. Kentucky takes down Duke 72-77. Duke 2-1, Kentucky 3-0. It was a nice game late, kind of back and forth. Flags got the ball late, couldn't get a shot up. He had 26 points, though. Kansas takes down Michigan State 77-69 last night. Samford, maybe should have saved this one for the last segment of the day. They knock off Rhodes 108-52. 12 players scored. Samford shot 41 of 93.
I like that.
9 of 34 from 3. Rhodes shot 19 of 58.
No.
Not great. But closing in on being a bad box score of the day. Tonight, you got Kent State at Auburn, 7 p.m. That's on ESPN+. Troy at Arkansas tonight at 7 p.m. as well. So some of your college basketball from last night. Also, some action last night. Ball State goes down. They take down Buffalo last night. Wide receiver Justin Bowick, 7 catches, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. Caden Simonza, 25 of 37, 327, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Western Michigan goes down to Bowling Green. Bowling Green is going bowling now, 6-4, 31-13. Harold Fannin, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched this kid play for Bowling Green, he is legit. Tight end, 10 for 137, 2 touchdowns last night. And Toledo smashes Central Michigan 37-10. Tonight, more action. Kent State at Miami of Ohio, 6 p.m. ESPNU. Kent State looking for win number 1 on the year.
Let's go.
0-9. Do they get it tonight, Greg?
They're due.
They're due?
They are due.
Okay. I'm going to say no. Also tonight, 6 p.m.
Hater.
CBS Sports Network, Akron at Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois looking to become bowl eligible in that one, 6 p.m. on ESPN2. Eastern Michigan is at Miami of Ohio. So there you go with some of your Maxon. I'm sorry, that's Ohio tonight, not Miami of Ohio. So more Maxon coming up tonight. And college football playoff has been the majority of our conversation today. 800-239-9569. You want to get in and discuss that. I mentioned yesterday, GMAC, that or one thing we didn't get to yesterday was some news that came down late on Friday. And it was from Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia, who filed a temporary restraining order against the NCAA, arguing that he would suffer irreparable harm, that he wasn't able to, I guess, take full advantage of his NIL capabilities because he played in junior college and wanted that eligibility back. That restraining order has been denied. And I'll say this. There were a lot of people that were celebrating this on Twitter and like, yeah, 1 more year Pavio, woo, let's go. If you actually read it, it was dumb. I don't know another way to say it. It was stupid. To say that because you played junior college ball before NIL was allowed, that you deserved another year to take advantage of NIL that's allowed now because the eligibility rules weren't fair. I mean, it was a big, big, big stretch. Now, the one thing I do think you pay attention to with it, Greg, is that we are beginning to see the term of eligibility be challenged. This is one of the first times, and it's going to happen again, and more people are going to say, I can earn more playing college football. You are trying to keep me from doing that. I'm suing you for more college football eligibility.
Correct. That is one of the biggest fears, I think, among administrators is what happens if they figure out, you know what a high court in our country determines that you can stay in college as long as you want. And that's a fear. I don't think it's likely, but I'm not that surprised given the earning potential of some of these guys in college football compared to that of what they would get in the NFL and what they would get in the private sector if they obviously move out and become I don't know, civilian, I guess. I don't know. Like, what do we call that?
Civilian.
I don't know. Like, I mean, not a college football player.
I think
not
what
a
you're trying to say is
player.
they decide to go pro in something other than sports. Is what you're trying.
Yes,
to say.
they go to the working world. Yeah, whatever it would be. I don't know, but all I know is that there is a fear of this, and this will be the first, and it probably won't be the last. But it's also going to be interesting because it gets in front of a high court. I would be curious to see how it gets interpreted.
I asked Charlie Baker about this at our seminar, president of the NCAA, and he stopped and he said, I've never been asked that. And I said, well, people are asking and people are talking about it. I said, so, maybe kind of take a look at where we're headed, because there's some people that think that this is viable, feasible. And his response was something along the lines of, this is why we're going to keep it tied to the academic calendar and why the employee status would kind of ruin it, because then I think you could just say, if they're just employees, why could they not just keep doing it? It's not tied to academics or the academic calendar. So I do think that that's something that will be an emphasis for him that he wants moving forward. Also yesterday, GMAC, Oklahoma President Joseph Haraz, along with Athletic Director Joe Castiglione, they say that they are supporting Brent Venables, and they have unwavering commitment to him. Saying it's a new era for us, but it's also a new era for college athletics, and there's going to be a lot of adjustment. There's going to be a lot that takes place. As far as my commitment to Coach Venables, it's 100%. Where do you view sort of Brent Venables with Oklahoma right now? Is he okay? Is it in good standing?
This year, I think he is.
I don't really mean like just being fired, but I just mean kind of how things are, like I guess just the big picture view of where Oklahoma football is right now.
Oh, I mean, I think Oklahoma football is finding out quickly that life in the SEC is a lot tougher than life in the Big 12. I mean, and that's something we've known for a long time, but I'm not sure they wanted to acknowledge it. Not saying that they don't have upward mobility in this conference. They absolutely do, but it's not easy in this league, man. And the idea of just showing up and winning 10 a year is not likely going to transpire. So I think they're not in a position financially to fire Brent Venables, but I do think he needs to show progress next year. And if he doesn't show progress next year, does he get a third year in the SEC to kind of showcase the trajectory and the mobility of this program? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
What are your thoughts on this offensive coordinator hire? I've heard a lot of different random names, and it doesn't feel like it's going to necessarily be one that's tied to him. It doesn't feel like it's going to be one that has to be in a certain system or scheme. It sounds like he's just trying to go get the best guy out there, best guy available. It's got to be a good one, though. I mean, he can't miss on this hire.
No, this has to hit. And you know what? They got to figure out quarterback. I don't care who you hire. You can hire the most innovative and creative play caller in the world. If you can't block him and you can't hit open guys, it doesn't make a difference. So tell me, are you more concerned about the coordinator hire or addressing the concerns at quarterback and offensive line?
All right. That brings me to a different question for you that I did want to get to after being at that game and then kind of watching the film back. I think there's a lot to like about Jackson Arnold. I think he throws a nice ball. I think he gets it out quick. He's got good arm strength. He's got good mobility. But I'm growing very concerned, Greg, that long term this is going to work. I mean, it's some of the stuff that he cannot get to, and the rate in which his feet just begin to go wild in the pocket, how quickly that happens. It's because I like the kid and I want him to do well, but I'm having trouble seeing it long term, man. I really am, and I don't like saying that, but it's just I've had him a couple times now, and I've studied him, and it's just it cannot get past that quick game. Out of the mesh, throw the football. As soon as it does, it just feels like it's completely erratic. And
yeah.
He can't find that calm after that.
I know. And that's a huge problem because it's hard to simulate reps in the pocket. You either kind of got it or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little unfortunate, and I hate to be so blunt, but if you don't have the feel for the game, it's not something that's easily developed. I mean, it just takes reps. And if you're turning the ball over and you're making mistakes and you're doing this and that, you're not going to get the live game reps because coach can't trust you. Like, I've always described guys as like quarterbacks are sometimes the ultimate coach killers, right? Like, sometimes there's some really good moments so you can't justify replacing them. And then you have some really bad moments so you want to quickly pull them and give them the hook. Well, that's like the both ends of the spectrum are kind of coach killer aspects. Like, really, really good, is great, but then you think they can do it wrong, but actually they're not really playing as well as you think they are. It just looks good because statistically speaking, things are inflated. And then really, really bad, you don't really have enough reps because you got to get them out of there. It's just a challenging situation. So I'm not willing to necessarily punt yet, but I'm not optimistic, at least at the moment.
Yeah, there's too much talent to say no. We're throwing you out. We're not even going to try it. But it is something that you look at and you get a little bit nervous about when you see it. If you're nervous about critters being in your home, wildlife, possum, raccoons getting in the garage, squirrels getting up there in the attic, well, our friends at Wayne's can help. Not just your yard, not just keeping the bugs and termites out, not just the mosquito protection. Now they have wildlife prevention services that can keep the animals out of your house. If they're already in, they'll get them out for you. Greg, just another reason that our listeners need to call Wayne's.
Yeah, Wayne's is so many different ways they can help you. Call them today, ask them about all the different services they can provide, the EnviroPest, the EnviroLawn, the smart technology that is safe, pet-friendly, child-friendly. Wayne's does just so many things around my house, and I know they've made my experience living in our community better. I know they've helped my neighbors, and I know they'll help you. 866-WAYNES-1. That's 866-WAYNES-1. Or visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, let's get to first off. Just hold on a second. We're going to go to break. I'm sorry, but I just saw this and I got to get to it. This guy's tweeting in the show asking about something that we just talked about with wrestling a second ago. We'll get to that on the other side. Back right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Get to your feedback here in just a moment. A couple of you on the Buyers Right hotline, 800-239-9569. You want to get in there. But first, Greg, right here at 8:54, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is the only place I would shop if I had a big event or a big purchase that I need to make. I'm calling Bromberg's first. I'm calling Bromberg's second. I'm calling Bromberg's exclusively because they are going to help me out just like they have for the last 7.5 years. It's really amazing just all the ways that Bromberg's can help you. They have the best sales staff, just people that have been in the business. They're experts. They can point you in the right direction. They know where trends are going. They know what your loved one will appreciate. They'll know what your loved one will prefer. So go and see them in one of their 2 locations. They've been serving this community for for nearly 200 years. So go see them in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit. You can shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, AJ in Florida wants to talk eligibility. Welcome in, AJ. You got about 30 seconds.
Well, I was just going to say, this talk about how the courts won't, put basically limits on how long guys can play. They absolutely will take those limits off. Because once we put any kind of, regulation and rules and make these guys employees, you can't fire an employee because they work somewhere for a certain amount of time. So in a way, this wild, wild west deal of NIL is actually the best way to do it because at least we can say we can just throw our hands up and say we don't know what's going on. But once we put parameters in this, they're going to be an employee and they're going to argue that. And then you can't fire an employee because they've worked somewhere too long.
It's great.
All I got.
It makes sense. And that's why I think a lot of us don't want it to go there. B. Curtis tweets in, man, I called Cubelic. I bet, hey, it's Conrad. Would be really disappointed you this morning. Don't know what Survivor Series is? Come on. I never said I didn't know what Survivor Series was. Actually, matter of fact, I referenced one of the greatest matches in WWF at the time history that was Survivor Series. I just didn't know they had a 5-person tag team match every year. Neither did John. Neither did Greg.
Boom, roasted.
Pete Thamel next.
Got him.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9 a.m., Wednesday, November 13th, hour number 3 right here on Jocks 94.5. Going to talk to Pete Thamel here in just a moment. We'll talk to him about college football playoff rankings, obviously some injury updates from around college football. But first, got to tell you about Your CBD Store. Your CBD Store, if you're looking for weight loss to trim by SunMed, in stock now. Skincare, gut health, they've got products for you and your pet there. Arthritis, anxiety, products for you and your pet. Better night's sleep, they can help you with that at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. They have the stamp seal on those products. So go check out one of their 3 locations today. Highway 280s by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver. Trustful just off 459. Your CBD Store, where good health hits home. All right, Pete Thamel of ESPN joining the show here in just a moment. We lost him. We'll try to get him back. We're going to talk to him about Nico Iamaleava, and it was kind of conflicting reports yesterday, GMAC. We had Austin Price on. VolQuest reported yesterday afternoon that did have a head injury, was in concussion protocol, but then there was a podcast that had Chris Felica on it, and he said that he was out and wasn't going to go. So kind of some mixed news here on Nico Iamaleava's status.
Sounds like, I mean, I trust Bear. Bear has been a good friend of mine for years. He's not going to go public with something that he doesn't have really good intel on. And if he makes a miraculous recovery and ends up playing this weekend, then that's what transpired. But based on my conversations with Bear over the years, if he has a sense if a guy's not going to play, it's usually pretty spot on. So Kentucky fans like all mad about it. It's like, he's just reporting information. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot more. It just sounds like he's in concussion protocol. And at this point, if the game were yesterday, he wasn't playing. We'll see what happens, whether or not he can go. But either way, he's got to play the best game of the year. And if he can't go, I think it's going to be up to their defense to probably knock this Georgia offense around that's struggling more than anything else.
If that were the case, can Tennessee stay in this game? Can they be competitive with Gaston Moore as the quarterback?
No.
I don't believe so either. Because then you stack the box and your dynamic running back, Dylan Sampson, is removed from the game because we know what Georgia's got up front, even though that Tennessee O-line and their group of tight ends are very physical. You're not going to be able to offset that. And I don't see how it's competitive if that's the case.
No. I don't see a scenario, and I don't know a lot about Gaston Moore. All I know is against Bama, he went in, was 0 for 1 with an interception. On pretty bad interception, I might add. So I've seen him throw one pass this year, and it wasn't good. So
yeah, he's just limited. I mean, that's all there is to it. 16-25, 201, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks this year. And that's the for Tennessee fans and for Nico himself, that's the frustrating part about this, Craig. This is not a, hey, let's go get more treatment or let's spend more time in the training room. I mean, this is something that just, it takes time. And when it is enough time, there's not a real way to know. You have those landmarks, those hurdles that you have to cross over, and you have to be okay when certain testing's done. And if you're there, they'll let you play. If you're not, you won't.
Seems simple enough to me. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see just how it all unfolds if he can't go. But I don't see him being able to go. I mean, the concussion thing's a very sensitive topic. It's different than when you and I played. If he goes, great. If that means he's definitely, because of all the hurdles that you have to overcome to go now, it means he's definitely clear, right? But if he doesn't go, it's really not going to be that much of a surprise.
All right, so we'll go to the Buyers Right hotline now. Pete Thamel of ESPN joining the show. Pete, we were just discussing Nico Iamaleava's status for this weekend. What you reported on it yesterday. What's the latest that you have out of the Tennessee quarterbacks camp?
So right now, Cole, and I appreciate you and Greg having me. Nico is in concussion protocol. So what that means is, I think the fact that you have to take the context clues with concussion protocol, right? He dressed and participated in practice twice this week. Now, I reported he did that Tuesday. Josh Heupel said on Monday that he was out there. So that would, to me, signify that he has a chance to play. I don't know if great shape, as Heupel said, would maybe be the most accurate term, because there are processes, and you guys know them well from all the years you played, in place to do that. But I would think there certainly looms to be a chance. What was pushed back to me from the Tennessee side yesterday was that he was out, as somebody had reported. Like, that was just there was just no chance. So I think there's a process, and they have to play through the process, and that obviously looms large over one of the biggest games of the season for both programs.
How much do you think might have to do with Tennessee not wanting the game plan out there? Because the game plan likely changes when you have to go with the backup, knowing that Nico is a viable threat in the run game. So I can see Tennessee really going above and beyond, trying to shoot those reports down, because it changes what their offense might be like. So when you are a reporter, Pete, like, how do you balance that without chasing misinformation? Because I would never know what to do with it, to be honest with you.
Sure, and I think this, like, you'd like to think people don't mess around with head injuries, right, Greg? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, just from a general standpoint. There is certainly, as somebody who spends a lot of time in the injury game, there is certainly some cat and mouse. I have found historically there's a lot less of it when you're dealing with this. Now, in a lot of ways, Georgia doesn't see him in the second half against Mississippi State and realizes as a baseline they're going to have to prepare for both, right? So, and Kirby was quoted yesterday basically saying, like, that they're going to have to prepare for two different philosophical quarterbacks. In fact, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If Heupel was playing games and wanted them to prepare for both, he would have left some ambiguity, right? Like, he wouldn't have said he's in great shape to do that. So, look, that always exists. I didn't feel that here. In terms of what's going on, but there's a chance he plays, and certainly as dealing with head injuries, there's a chance he doesn't.
Pete Thamel of ESPN joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. They'll be taking on Georgia either way, and if you look at the college football playoff rankings now, Pete, they would be out. It was a massive slide. We were surprised that it was that far. What do you hear out of Georgia's camp about maybe the rest of the season, kind of where that team is right now? Just thoughts in general of what's still in front of them and what they make of their football team at the moment.
Yeah, Cole, Georgia's one of the most compelling teams in the country right now. If somebody had told me in September that, Carson Beck would have maybe the biggest slide of any quarterback who was projected on the top of many NFL teams' boards, I'd be pretty shocked. Like, Carson Beck is he's got good arm talent, and he's been a productive guy. He just simply hasn't put things together in big games, and Georgia hasn't put things together in big games. And I think the thing that's probably most concerning for Georgia is there's just not one symptom you can put it on, right? Like, they mauled Texas in Austin because their defensive line put on what was probably one of the 5 most dominant defensive line performances we'll see in college football this year. Would you agree with that, Cole? You studied the trenches more than me. That was a straight-up whipping from end to end that happened there. And I think that performance hasn't been consistent from that Georgia line. Now, there's certainly been injuries. Michael Williams wasn't himself for the first couple weeks of the season. The other thing I couldn't have projected was, and you're obviously on the Joe Moore Award, panel, Cole. Like, I could not have seen this Georgia offensive line struggling the way they did, with the talent, with the pedigree, with the production, with the returning starts, with what the NFL thinks of those guys. I am surprised that group got whipped the way they did against a very talented Ole Miss defensive line. So between the legal troubles that have depleted their receiver room, the inherent drop when you lose the best tight end we've seen in college football in a decade, and in the up front, they've obviously had injury issues and off-field issues with ATM that's cost him some games and carries. There's just been a lot of brush fires at Georgia and a lot of problems that have manifested themselves sort of with their upper middle class mediocrity, right? Like, they obviously were great, and I think, if you're Georgia, thank God you played that Clemson game, right? Like, yeah. and you didn't just play 2 Sun Belts and an FCS or something like that, because I think that other than the other than the Texas win is really their screaming resume piece of what they can do. So I just think Georgia's, we all saw the schedule early, but we thought they had the personnel to endure and combat, and a lot's riding on this home game on Saturday night.
What do we have any update about whether or not Colby Young he'll be back with Georgia? That whole I don't know how many people have been following it, but he was kicked off the team and suspended indefinitely. The allegations were that he had a domestic violence situation with his ex-girlfriend. We don't need to get into the details there, but she has now come out and has rescinded what was said and has dropped all charges, what have you. And now there's buzz about him maybe returning to maybe elevate this passing game. Like, have you heard anything on that situation?
Other than knowing Colby, the statement that came out on behalf of Colby Young last week, and Kirby addressed it briefly, saying they're going to have to let the legal process play out. So other than that, I don't know. But if once the legal process plays out, it would apparently become a Georgia decision to make. And they obviously have. Look, we're not even 2 months from the end of the season, right? There's a lot left if you're going to play a long way here. So I don't have any other intel other than once Colby Young clears the legal process, it would become a decision that the University of Georgia has to make, and I would assume that decision is well above Kirby Smart's head.
Pete Thamel of ESPN joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. I wanted to just get sort of share your thoughts, what you're hearing about the college football playoff rankings so far. Are conferences frustrated, upset? Are they just willing to wait and see this thing work itself out? What is the thought process for schools, administrators, commissioners behind the scenes of how things have played out through 2 weeks of rankings?
So after week one, I texted a whole bunch of people, and, I think the rankings are designed for conversation, right? And they're designed for supposed transparency, but it's just sort of like, let's start a brush fire every Tuesday and talk about it until the game's on Saturday, right? So the veteran folks, I don't think are going to particularly overreact, especially because a vast majority of the schools that are, going to be deemed controversial are going to have chances to revert things. I was surprised, and I'm sure you guys talked about this a bunch today, that Georgia fell as far as they did. I'm a pinch surprised that Texas is as high as they are. I'm also just surprised there's 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5, right? And there's just some weird things, but I can't tell you, if you guys gave me $10,000 to tell you week 2 last year in when the rankings were released, what happened and who was where and what was controversial, I would have no idea. Like, you live through enough of these things, they generally work themselves out. I think right now it looks pretty good that there's going to be 4 Big Ten teams, and it looks pretty good there's going to be 4 SEC teams. I do think a 3-loss team gets in. I've been consistent about that since the thing started, just because we've seen 3-loss teams in that neighborhood. I probably think the most interesting piece of empirical data that this committee has left is that they really seem to value a good loss, right? Penn State has a good loss. Ohio State has a good loss, and they're obviously, up there in that sense. Boise State, quite frankly, has a loss that's better than any of its wins. And they could be perceived as a pinch high for a G5 team when you look back historically. But I haven't sensed any outrage. Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, noted he was a little bit irked about where BYU was, and quite frankly, they're 6, and now people are saying BYU's too high. So on the outside, so I do think generally a lot of that stuff works itself out, but I think bringing on 12 is only going to amplify the controversy. This thing existed for a decade, guys, generally pretty controversy free. There were 2 probably in 10 years, which isn't that bad. I just think the dynamics at play, and then, this happens every year with the committee chair, right? They roll the person out there, they say something in week 2, and then of the rankings, and then they have to go back on it at the end because it doesn't fit with how they rank things then. So I do think they're going to be setting themselves up perhaps, for saying something about a team, and then that doesn't apply to another team that ends up sliding in, in that 11 seed or whatever. So, the rankings are kind of fraught with peril. They always are, but I haven't gotten a sense that anybody's irate right now.
Yet.
It'll happen, Greg. I'm convicted on that, but I haven't heard of any big lobbying efforts happening and such. Because look, if Georgia beats Tennessee, they're going to end up comfortably in this thing, right? Right in the thicket of the rankings, probably more towards the host than not host thing, the portion of it all. So I do think the tension to me that's going to be the most interesting is the number of good wins versus losses, right? Like an 11-1 without a top 25 versus a 10-2 or a 9-3 with some good wins and then some really, really high-end losses. How that to me is the fundamental tension of this. And you've sort of seen Greg Sankey predict in the national meetings. He said something, and I'm going to paraphrase here, to the effect of the committee has to do a really good job. Like the big leagues are worried about their teams. The two Power 2 leagues are worried about their teams getting squeezed, and the rhetoric has foreshadowed that. And how that works is interesting because look, the Big 12 just isn't in the same sphere, and the schedules aren't the same, just the same as the ACC. So how that gets distilled, discussed, and meted is going to be, to me, the fundamental controversy that inherently comes out of this thing.
Pete, we appreciate the time today. Great stuff. Always good catching up with you, and look forward to doing it again soon.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for thinking of me. Appreciate you guys.
There you go. Pete Thamel, ESPN, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. That's going to be a massive one, Greg, and I assume that people will probably be able to watch a little bit of line movement late in the week to see where the information is on this one, because there are not a lot of players that often can cause a point. They can cause a line to go up a point or two or even a half a point or two. I can imagine that Nico for that team might be one of those.
Yes, I would think he probably would be, especially knowing his mobility. If you put a sitting duck back there at quarterback, Georgia's struggled a little bit this year with mobile options at quarterback. Bama got him. Ole Miss got him with some quarterback run stuff that hurt him. When they were able to tee off and we knew where the guy was going to be standing when he dropped back to pass, like Quinn Ewers, they were able to pin their ears back and go. So if you replace a mobile Nico with a backup that is not as mobile, that's something to be mindful of. So potentially a big out.
All the throws. I mean,
correct.
So it's going to allow that defense to play in a very different way, and so we'll see exactly how that plays out. We know how it plays out when you visit the Pants Store, though.
Yep, Pants Store is your game day headquarters, and they've been able to really help me out as things have cooled off. Love to go in there, get some layers, get taken care of. I know my wife goes in there some. Has gotten dresses, has gotten shoes, boots, also the clear purses as well if you're planning on attending some games in person here down the stretch. So you got all the polos, quarter zips, great brands like Horn Legend, Cutter and Buck, Antigua, and Gentile. So go and check out the Pants Store for all your game day needs.
All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Ward Manuel on some of the decisions last night by the committee and just kind of discuss what we think that means, where the committee's thought process will be moving forward, right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Welcome back to McElroy Cubelic in the morning, 9:22 a.m. in Birmingham, Alabama. I am in Hartford, Connecticut, getting ready to make my way back here in just a minute. Was on the playoff show last night, a lot of fun, but anxious to get home, that's for sure. Also anxious to go check out the deals that you'll find on the lot at Bill Smith Buick GMC. The dealers are really starting to hone in on some of the best time to buy a new vehicle. You can go and check out what they have right now in the dealership that GMC says is taking a back seat to nobody. Bill Smith Buick GMC, the number one GMC dealer in the Southeast, the number one in the nation. That's why they've won GMC Dealer of the Year 7 times. How about this deal? A 2024 Hummer 3X EV pickup truck. MSRP on this is $150,000. That's a big number, but they can take $20,000 off plus 0% for 60 months. Taking $20,000 off a car that most dealerships can't even get on the lot is truly remarkable, and to get it with 0% interest for 5 years, yeah, that's a pretty good deal right there. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, so speaking of the college football playoff rankings, we have been through them with you, kind of let you know where everybody was. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama at 10, Ole Miss at 11, Georgia 12, Boise, SMU, Texas A&M. Ward Manuel last night just on how the committee looks at early wins and losses.
We first start every week with a clean slate. We look at the body of work up until that point of every team that we're considering. And obviously we can see when a team loses early or wins a big game early, or loses late or wins a big game, later in the season. And so we deal with it as it comes, but there's really not a time where we give more credence to early win or early loss over anything. We look at them as they come and judge them for where they are based on the body of work. So with that, obviously teams can, as they play later in the season, if they win or lose, we factor that into how we evaluate them at that time. But I would just say it's, we recognize it, but we take it and evaluate it by, who they lose to, where is it in the season. Obviously we see that, but we look at it individually.
Does any of that bother you, Greg, when you hear the way that he lays that out?
Yes. Does it bother you? I think as most football guys would say, yeah, that's I don't like to hear that.
There are parts of it that are a little bit uncomfortable. But it's some of this is going to be a back and forth, and some of this is going to be a give and a take, because it's not going to satisfy everybody. Right. Like Trip Tepper tweets into the show, makes a great point. Ward Manuel and the committee gave BYU more credit for winning by 1 point at Utah than Alabama winning by 29 at LSU. BYU went from 9 to 6. Bama went from 11 to 10. Make it make sense. Because there are so many different parameters, because there are so many different ways to weigh different things with these different teams, I don't think it's going to make sense. I don't know how it could. I don't think that there's a way to make it make sense. I don't know for you, Greg, but for me, no. It's not going to. But you want it to make as much sense as it can, and some
Correct.
of it is absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah, some of it is, and it's a give and take. It's a process where everyone interprets it differently. Like, your viewpoint is probably different than my viewpoint. If you were to stack teams up with your top 25 is different than mine, was different than Damien's, different than Saber's, different than, my wife, different than Kat, different than Judge Cubelic. Like, everybody's going to kind of sort them out differently. That's why there's 13 people on the committee. And they all probably look at it from a different point of view, and they all probably look at it from a different perspective, and they all have different priorities and what's most important to them. So that's why I'm glad that we have some diversity, because I think eventually they kind of figure out what's best. But I don't like hearing about good losses. I don't like hearing about margin in losses and things like that. Like, a loss is a loss is a loss. I personally would like now, with things moving the way they move, to assess strength of schedule. Like, back in the day, strength of schedule was kind of a moot point. Now, because these schedules are so imbalanced, I think we have to acknowledge strength of schedule as a possibility. And I'm not sure that a lot of teams are doing that right now. So strength of schedule to me is about as important as it gets. And that's because not all schedules, even within conferences, are created equal. So I hope that that's where they get, but we'll see.
He was also asked about the difference between BYU, Indiana, and Tennessee.
I can say no to the injury of to Tennessee's quarterback. Had nothing to do with it. Really came down to the play last week of both Indiana and BYU, both winning big games on their schedule. Tennessee, the offense has struggled some in the second half of the season, not being consistent early in the year, and we just felt as a committee that at this time Indiana has been playing very well. Close win against Michigan, but other than that, they've dominated everyone they've played. BYU, obviously undefeated, 2 wins against top 25 opponents at SMU and against Kansas State. And so in looking at it, as we assessed all the teams, we just felt that Indiana and BYU earned the 5 and the 6 slot, and Tennessee stayed where they are.
All right, so his opinion on the differences between those teams. I mean, I don't know, Greg. Are you buying that? Are you good with what he's saying there? It's hard for me to think that they're going to give you too many details on the actual differences in certain teams, because I think they know the doors that those are good. That's going to open.
Correct. It's always the most generic thing. There's sometimes I feel like I can get something from the committee chair. This year is not one of those years.
Yeah, it's just not a lot that we're going to learn right there. All right, there was a team that moved up in the rankings that had a pretty good weekend, and some of the stuff that their head coach said I thought was pretty cool. I'm gonna get to that on the other side, but why don't you tell our listeners first and foremost about B-Dry?
Well, B-Dry has been serving Alabama and customers across this community for 60 years. They continue to back things up with a life of the structure warranty. That life of the structure warranty is amazing when you consider the fact that they've came out, maybe waterproofed your home 50 years ago, and they'll still come out, no questions asked, to get things taken care of. They're the largest waterproof in the country, and they can stop all 5 ways water can enter your foundation, and they can offer you 0% for 12 months, so you don't have to pay a single dollar for 12 months, and yet still get your basement, your crawl space, your foundation taken care of. Call B-Dry today at 942-1976 or visit bdryalabama.com.
All right, when we come back, you'll hear from Lane Kiffin. Some interesting thoughts on not just this past week's game, right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you tuning in. Search Jocks945 on YouTube. You can be a part of the show there. Apps in your App Store, iPhone, Android. Download that. You can listen for free. I thought this was interesting for you, G-Mac. Lane Kiffin discussing with Dan Patrick yesterday how his team shows up for games.
I give that to our players. It's a player's game. Players think like recruits also. So our players choose our uniform combos. We opened up when we got here to more options for them. Just kind of when we got here, I kind of said, okay, we got to be a little bit different here at Ole Miss. You know, we're not a traditional national powerhouse. So we've got to create something that players, recruits want to come play at. So let's have a really cool offense. Let's have neat uniforms. Let's play a different style. So I kind of said, kind of copying the Oregon model years ago when they started that.
Your thoughts on the Ole Miss uniforms, Craig? We know you're a big color guy.
I feel like it's funny that question gets asked in the first game where I feel like Ole Miss just flat out took someone to the woodshed with their physicality and toughness, and yet they get asked about the uniforms. It's just not fair.
But I did think it was interesting after we saw what happened this time around with Lane Kiffin against Georgia to go back and listen to what Lane Kiffin said after last year's blowout loss to Georgia.
We got to recruit at a higher level, and I'm not blaming people. We got to coach better, but you know, at some point, whatever those stats are, we've signed 1 5-star, they've signed 24 or something. Those kind of do show up at some point. So we'd have to recruit at a better level, do a better job recruiting.
And the reality of it is, Greg, he went out and did it. I mean, they went out and got those guys. They went out and recruited better. They went out and got the kind of players needed to be able to compete. And then, obviously, as we just saw, go beat Georgia.
Yeah, and I think the change and adjustment and approach is a welcome sight for many Ole Miss fans, because now they can go toe-to-toe and they can say, hey, we're good to go, and we can fight and scrap, and if we need to win in the trenches, we'll win in the trenches. We win on the perimeter, we'll win on the perimeter. We can win in a lot of different ways now, and I think that's what's nice about watching Ole Miss this year is that it's no longer a track meet. 5 years ago, they had to win. They could win games like this, but it had to be a track meet. Even last year against LSU, they could win games like that, but it had to be a track meet. They'd have to outscore them. Now they can win on both sides of the ball. They can win inside and outside. They can win a physical game, or they can win a game that's going to require a lot of points. It's a really fluid and adaptable team, and it's one that I think a lot of people will have a lot of respect for if they really paid close attention to them.
Yeah, it was. And listen, we all questioned it, right? We wondered what was the continuity going to look like? What was the chemistry going to look like? Could they get these guys to play together? Would they be motivated? Specifically after some of the adversity they saw earlier in the season, and then to get them remotivated, reacclimated without Trey Harris also. To be able to go out there and get that win the way that they did is pretty impressive.
Very. And I almost think, and I don't think that this is something that's popular thought, I think the offense clicks really nicely without Trey Harris. It's always nice to have that luxury of a big body receiver. But I don't think that his loss and his absence is as significant, because I don't think Jackson Dart has as much tunnel vision looking in his direction, and is not going to kind of force feed it to him to kind of keep him going. I think the speed that you can put and the versatility you have with their other weapons makes them almost more difficult to defend when guys are in different places. Whereas Trey's always going to be the right side of the formation. Well, when he's not there, they put a bunch of guys in there, and you got to adjust your coverage as a result.
Is that real? Like, from a quarterback's perspective, do you find yourself playing that game of, okay, well, this guy's in, we're just going to go to him? It's like Brady Cook on the 4th and 12. What was it, last year? Like, we knew he was throwing the ball to Luther Burden. I mean, it's like, right. We knew Brock Bowers was getting the ball on 4th down, 3rd and longs last year for Georgia. Does it help simplify your ability to use the entire offense?
Well, it puts a little bit more pressure on the offensive coordinator to scheme something up when it's likely that the defense knows you're going there as well, and they're going to do whatever they can to double that guy or to talk you out of looking in that direction. Look, it's always beneficial to have great players. Like, the more great players, the better. But more often than not, when you have an elite take over the game guy, you are going to give that guy the benefit of the doubt more often than you probably should. Hey, if the age-old adage, well, if he's covered, he's open. That's not always true. Like, sometimes when he's covered. So you don't need to throw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that it's not that he gets totally locked in on Trey. He does spread the ball, but you can see there's been a conscientious effort from this offensive staff to get Caden Lee more involved, to get Jordan Watkins more involved, to get Daquan Wright, their tight end, more involved. And those guys' advancement is only going to make things better when Trey Harris comes back.
All right, we're going to get to our bad box scores of the day on the other side. Before we do that, G-Mac, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services is your one-stop shop around town. If you have something that's going wrong at your house, I call Polar Bear Services first. They're the first person I call because they've now added plumbing. They've already been able to do electrical work. And they've always been specialists in the HVAC system. And as things starting to cool off, you need a system tune-up, you need duct cleaning, repair, new installation, call them today. And remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
Back with our bad box scores of the day. Potential all-timers next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. 9:44 a.m. Wednesday, November 13th on Jocks 94.5. We just found the original G.I. Joe on one of the monitors here in studio. Best character from the OG G.I. Joe, John. Damien, you're out on this. It's
trust me, I'm
not applicable for you.
At all.
Probably Flint.
It's Cobra Commander or Destro.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, of the whole, I thought you meant of just the Joes.
No. Oh, well, yeah, no.
Oh, no, of everything. Oh, yeah, it's obviously Commander.
I would say Snake Eyes, but he didn't talk.
No,
so
no. Best looking, maybe.
For him
Yeah.
to be that guy. Yeah. Coolest, for sure.
Yes.
I don't think there's really any doubt about that. All right, don't forget about our friends at Train. Football season moving on. Weather's going to cool off. Make your HVAC system ready for the cold weather that's on the way. For long-term reliability, a Train home comfort system is your answer. To give you peace of mind right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with selected Train comfort systems. To learn more, visit train.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. Couple trains coming through in our bad box scores of the day. Some teams that were definitely hard to stop. This is where we celebrate the best of the worst. It is our bad box score of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
What if I offered you up an appetizer of the Oregon
Ducks
against the North Texas Mean Green? I believe that one for you. Yeah. Oregon gets to 4-0 on the year.
Okay.
North Texas goes to 2-1 in a 66-35 loss.
Ouch.
Double up. Okay.
North Texas shot 49 times.
Okay.
They made 12.
That's not good at all.
They did shoot 10 threes.
Okay, well that's
so they were just missing shots.
Klay Thompsoning it.
They made 2.
Okay,
it happened.
They shot 19 free throws.
Oh, so they were getting after it then.
Steph Currying it.
They made 9.
They're shacking it.
Boy.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
They are rebounded 44-30. They only turned the ball over 19 times.
So the hustle was there. They just didn't have a good shooting day. That's all.
Offense or defense.
Yeah, it happens.
Oregon shot 27 of 60, 7 of 23 from 3.
See, it wasn't even, that great.
That was enough. Like I said.
And we turned over 19 times. Yeah, don't need to do much.
A little bit of a warm-up there. The Kentucky
Wildcats.
They knocked off the Wofford
Terriers.
76-42.
Okay.
Wofford shot 14 of 69 from the floor.
Oh, boy.
They shot 33s.
Okay. Yeah.
They made 5.
Right.
I can do that.
I don't think so.
I could do that.
Actually,
They were out-rebounded 51-37.
Okay.
They were not looking ahead to Duke. Okay, I got it.
Moving on. The UCLA.
They would be the Bruins.
They knocked off the Pepperdine.
Ooh.
Waves?
Yes.
Yeah.
91-54.
Ooh.
Pepperdine shot 18 of 59, 9 of 26 from 3, turned it over 13 times. All right, now to the good stuff. Here we go.
Boy, here we go.
The LSU.
They'll be the Tigers.
They just snuck past the Charleston Southern.
Chanticleers?
No.
No, wait, that's somewhere else.
Are they the Bucks?
Coastal. Yeah, they are. They're the Bucks.
This is your voice. That's what threw me off.
Charleston Southern is winless on the season. They stay that way, going down 117-44.
Triple up.
That's not ideal.
Kim Mulkey's 5th win by 70 or more since he took over as the LSU head coach.
70 or more.
Anissa Morrow, 21 points, 20 rebounds.
Good hustle.
3rd career 2020 game.
I can coach that.
See that?
6th player in LSU history record a 20 rebound game. Angel Reese, by the way, had 7. Marie Jackson had 12. Paulette Johnson, 18 points, 10 rebounds. She entered the game needing 18 points to reach 1,000 career, which obviously she now did. And Michaela Williams led LSU with 25 points. So those we just throw off. They didn't even lead the team in scoring.
No, just out here.
It wasn't great for Charleston Southern, as they are now 0-4 on the season. They shot 16 of 66. They did shoot 31 threes.
Okay.
They made 4.
Okay.
That's more like what Damien would do.
That's it.
They were only out rebounded 66-23.
Oh, okay. So they just didn't care.
Simple triple up.
They didn't care.
I feel like there may have been a height advantage. All right, the USC.
They'll be the Trojans.
Lady Trojans.
They knocked off the Cal State Northridge.
They are.
Yeah, y'all ain't getting this one.
They're the Bearcats.
No.
Wombats.
Matadors.
Okay. No.
Matadors 2-1. USC number 3 team in the country.
Okay.
By the way, 3-0.
Matadors get Olayed.
124-39.
Ooh.
Quadruple up there.
USC shot 48 of 79. That's 61% from the floor.
That's clutch.
Solid D.
17 of 36 from 3.
That's great.
That's 47% from the 3-point line. Now they out-rebounded the Matadors 40-26.
Okay.
The Matadors turned it over 43 times in the game.
That's disgusting.
Now,
Yeah, that's just.
I'm going to remind you of the final score. 124-39.
Mm-hmm.
They turned it over 43 times.
They had more turnovers than points.
That is not included in the Rubik's Cubelic, but if was, probably lead to a loss most times. Now, the Matadors shot the ball 46 times in the game.
That's, decent.
They made 12.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
They did shoot 19 threes, made 5.
That's better.
Improvement.
So, I mean,
You can only go up from here.
Actually, no, it can't. It could go worse.
6 players in double figures for USC.
How about they stop somebody?
They
couldn't.
Or score. We could play that game also.
God.
We'll stay with women's hoops yesterday. The Ohio State.
They will be the Lady Buckeyes.
They just snuck past the Charlotte
49ers.
49ets.
94-53 yesterday.
Okay.
Not quite as bad, not an all-timer, but it just kind of follows in with what we...
Honorable mention.
I feel like it was just a theme yesterday in women's hoops that we just...
Yeah.
I mean, it was like an entire bad box score.
It was Magellan. It was all over
yesterday. But listen, this is where it got started. This is kind of how we got to this point. There are 2 good ones for you. The Coppin State.
Ooh.
Rattlers?
Bobcats?
Eagles.
Oh.
Knocked off the St. Francis, Pennsylvania.
They're the Wildcats.
They are not.
No, they are the Frontiers women.
Red Flash.
Oh,
close.
Oh boy.
Coppin State goes to 2-1. Red Flash haven't won a game, and that might not be surprising when I tell you they shot 14 of 46 from the floor, 3 of 13 from 3. 7 of 15 from the, quote, free throw line.
Lord have mercy.
It was shoot one, get one free, I guess.
They only turned it over 28 times in the game.
It's not 30.
Now, for the complete oddity statistic of the day, the Red Flash actually out-rebounded Coppin State 39-33.
There we go.
Lost 74-38.
They hustled. The shots weren't falling. That's all.
Well, we just established that. Yes.
But they didn't give up.
They shot 30% from the floor.
Love the effort.
Mostly bad box score. Okay.
Love the effort.
It's still going to be a bad box score for me.
Yeah.
It's
you know what? You get a D on this paper. Everyone else gets an F. You get a D. You at least had some effort.
All right, I'll leave you guys with this one. You can decide if it's an all-timer.
Oh boy.
The Purdue Fort Wayne.
They are
Patriots.
No. The Commanders?
Mastodons.
Oh wow.
All right.
They took off the Defiance.
We've had them before.
Defiance. They are the Windbreakers.
No. Are they the Tigers?
They're the Yellow Jackets.
Oh, okay.
And they were stung 104-31.
That's knocking at the door of all-timer. Knocking at the door.
Your score by quarter, 23-9, 22-12, and I don't know what happened at the half, 31-6 and 28-4.
He's a better coach, or she's a better coach. That's what happened. That's why. Scored more in the second half.
Yeah.
Well, not the Defiance, coach.
Oh, okay, well.
They shot 45 times.
Okay.
They made 10.
Okay.
They shot 14 threes.
That's okay. They weren't living and dying by it.
Nope. They were dying because 2 went in.
Live and let die. Yeah.
They turned it over 30 times.
That's what got
They're
them.
out rebounded 44-25.
That's also what got them.
That's what got them.
They grabbed 7 offensive rebounds.
That's also what got them.
Keep in mind, they missed 35 times.
Lack of hustle. Lack of shot making.
Purdue Fort Wayne shot 43 of 73 from the floor. 8 of 19 from 3.
Oh, they were just hot.
10 of 16 from the free throw line.
Because you
got to get better there.
And a 104-31 win in your final bad box score of the day.
You just burned that tape, right? Like, this just didn't happen.
It never
We move
happened.
on.
Yes, you didn't. That didn't take place.
Until it happens again.
Never happened.
All right, bonus bad box score of the day. East Texas A&M.
Wranglers.
Aggies?
Lions.
Okay.
Weak.
This is going to be, this is probably not going to be right. Took on the Les Treneaux College.
They are the wine connoisseurs.
I'm just going to say Lions because it starts
They're
with
also
L.
the Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
East Texas A&M stole that game 104-33.
Oh,
they stole it.
Les Treneaux shot, 10 of 62.
Okay, that's pathetic.
They shot 29 threes, though.
Les Treneaux offense.
Les Tre, please shoot no more three-pointers because you went 4-29.
Oh, gosh.
Actually, Les No Tre. They were out-rebounded 49-33. East Texas A&M shot 41 of 69, 10 of 19 from three. Yikes.
Yeah, see, that's what happens. When team gets hot, it's tough to beat them. It's
So
just
the
tough
French
to beat
do.
them.
They let people eat. Now, you know what? Kudos.
I'd just start fouling people. I'm going to be honest with you.
You have to.
If it got to that point, it'd be hacking every person. All of them. You're all going down. Close on everybody. The Florida
Gators
took on the Chicago State.
We just had them, did we not?
No, I don't think
Panthers?
so. They're the Cougars. Cougars are 0-4 after the Gators took them down 104-35 last night.
Wow, in public, no less.
14 of 64 from the floor. That's 21%. Out rebounded 58-32.
Okay.
Florida shot 42 of 78 from the floor. 35 points in a basketball game. An entire game.
Yep.
All of it. The whole thing.
Full 4 quarters.
There was one other that we didn't even get in. Northwestern State, again, we had them 2 days ago. They knocked off Arkansas Baptist 98-27.
That's not Christian of them.
It was not.
God,
Portland, not the Trailblazers, took out Corbin University 108-41.
All right, Corbin.
So I don't know what happened. We appreciate everybody who joined the show today. You can go hear those podcasts at jocksfm.com. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10. 3-Man Front is next.